Chapter 690. A 1,000-mile area in the eastern suburbs of the Luo Shui Imperial Mausoleum collapsed, burying Qin Hao and Mu Yue. Immediately after, another earth-shattering event happened in the Imperial City, causing a huge uproar. This event was closely related to the four academies. For some reason, the Medicine Valley had opened in advance. The time of opening would be 2 months later. Moreover, the Luo Shui Empire's military had specially sent a full army to guard the entrance of the Medicine Valley in the mountains behind Xiangbin. The atmosphere was extremely tense. However, there was no news of Qin Hao in these 2 months. Although Hai Dafu personally came and used a large number of Da Qin's experts to dig, they couldn't find any trace of him. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Xiaogua, Lin Feng, and Naylan Li improved rapidly in the inner yard. They were also very honored to become the chosen disciples of Qiangbin, representing the academy to enter the Medicine Valley. This day had finally arrived. In the mountains behind Qiangbin, the second most forbidden area in western Liang, the entrance of the Medicine Valley, which was known as the place where fortuitous encounters and death coexisted. The members of the four academies also arrived one after another. The Medicine Valley was a very primitive and barren forest. It covered a wide area, and even floating in the air, it was difficult to see the end of it with the naked eye. Almost all the strange medicinal herbs on the continent were gathered inside, and their grades were extremely high. Obtaining one of them could make a fortune and become a tycoon. Of course, one had to be alive to come out. The danger level inside was proportional to the number of medicinal herbs. Even the weakest demonic beasts were demonic beasts that were as powerful as Yuan Zhou. Sacred beasts were common, and there was no lack of beast kings and beast lords. In the core area, there was also the existence of beast emperors. It was said that the one who maintained the balance between the Medicine Valley and the outside world was a supreme beast emperor. This was just a rumor. Whether or not there was a beast emperor inside, no one had seen it. Due to the high level of danger, only the elders of the four academies and the top 10 disciples of the academies dared to enter. Therefore, over the years, a large number of corpses of the seniors were left behind. Obtaining these corpses, as well as the treasures beside them, would allow one to obtain a great fortune. Furthermore, there were also some rogue cultivators and rangers who often barged into the Medicine Valley to look for herbs because of their superior strength. However, 90% of them never came out again. According to the cultivation of this year's 4 great academy's disciples, as long as they didn't go too deep and especially didn't touch the core area, there shouldn't be any fatal danger. Then, they would leave the Medicine Valley with a stock of herb. That would be considered a pass. Qualified disciples signified that they had graduated and were granted the qualifications to roam the world. Therefore, the Medicine Valley was also considered as a graduation ceremony for the disciples of the 4 major schools. However, this ceremony was simply too difficult and cruel. The entrance to the Medicine Valley was between 2 mountains. Between these 2 mountains, the Luo Shui Empire had artificially built a huge wall that was 50 meters high and 100 miles long. Each piece of stone weighed 1,000 kilograms. The top of the city wall was wide enough for 3 carriages to run side by side. The soldiers were equipped with heavy weapons. It could be said that this city wall could be said to be an iron bastion. If one wanted to forcefully break through it, one would have to pay a painful price to even break a piece of stone. On the city wall, there was a forest of long spears. Every 3 steps, there was a tall, heavily armored soldier. Every 10 meters, there was a peak-level sky grandmaster among the soldiers. Every 100 meters, there was a saint-level sky grandmaster. The densely packed sea of people stood on the city wall like a black line, forming a unique scenery. It was like a second wall on top of the city wall. It was a wall of martial strength built by human experts. The front of the city wall was watered with steel slurry and had sharp iron spikes protruding from it. These iron spikes, which gleamed with a cold light, were extraordinary. They were all made of 1,000-year-old cold iron and could easily pierce through the fur of sacred beasts. It was obvious how important this city wall was to the Luo Shui Imperial City and how sturdy it was. At this moment, on the platform behind the city wall, an old man in a plain gray robe stood there quietly with his hands behind his back. His calm eyes were looking at the disciples below the platform. However, no one noticed that deep in Yao Lao's eyes, there was a trace of anxiety and worry. Chin chap, you couldn't have died, right? You disappeared for 2 months, and even I couldn't sense your presence. If you still don't appear, we will really lose our last chance to enter the Medicine Valley. Sigh. Yao Lao sighed. It wasn't that he didn't want to help, but that he couldn't. He had been to the Imperial Mausoleum in the eastern suburbs. The soil there was very special. Not only was it hard, but it had also returned to normal after it collapsed. Even though Yao Lao probed with his Yuan venerate consciousness, he couldn't sense Qin Hao's presence at all. This ugly old man who guards the medicine tower in the outer courtyard is actually the elusive vice president of our Scarlet Sun Martial Institution. I, Bai Lang, am truly shocked. If I had known earlier, I would have treated him more respectfully when I was still in the outer courtyard. Really, what a pity. I lost a chance to climb up his coattails, Bai Lang said regretfully. At the bottom of the platform, 9 Xiangbin disciples stood side by side. They were all in scarlet attire with a sacred image of the Scarlet Sun embroidered on their chests. The person in the middle was the chief disciple of the Scarlet Sun inner pavilion, Yi Wuhan. This was the first time Yi Wuhan had seen the deputy chief dean in person. Just like Bai Lang, he was very surprised. The other 2 inner pavilion disciples standing beside Yi Wuhan, Xinyuan Wuhuang and Duan Huoyo, were also stunned. Compared to their surprise, Caiogua and Lin Feng were much calmer. After all, Yao Lao had fought with the chief dean of Star Moon Academy during the Rising Star competition for Qin Hao. Caiogua and Lin Feng glanced at each other tacitly and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. The list of people who were selected to enter the Medicine Valley this time was very strange, excluding the 3 inner pavilion disciples. In terms of strength, although Naylan Li and Naransu had improved a lot in the past 2 months, there was still a gap between them and Tai Long and Fong Jinchong, who were ranked on the Heaven list. What was strange was that the day before the team was to enter the Medicine Valley, Tai Long, Fong Jinchong, and Tan Yong all died suddenly and accidentally in the inner courtyard. As a last resort, they were temporarily replaced by Naylan Li, Naransu, and Bai Lang, including Han Man, Lin Feng, Caiogua, and the 3 inner pavilion disciples. There were exactly 9 people. What made Caiogua puzzled was why Tai Long and Tan Yong died strangely on the same day. As a result, there was an accident with the team configuration. Also, in the team of 10 people, there was Qin Hao's name, but there was no Yi Shui's name. The deputy chief dean didn't give a spot to Yi Shuihan. Could it be? Big Brother didn't ask for a spot for Shuihan? Caiogua thought so at first, but he denied it in the end. Since he could enter the Medicine Valley with Yi Shuihan's identity and status, how could he not get a spot? There was something fishy going on. It's Han Man's honor to enter Qiangbin to witness the deputy chief dean's glory. It's a pity that Junior Qin Hao. Sigh. Han Man shook his head. He had heard about the collapse of the Imperial Mausoleum in the eastern suburbs. It was already a hot topic in the Luo Shui Empire. It was most likely that Qin Hao had died. It was really a pity. When Xinyuan Wuhuang heard Han Man's words, he could not help but shake his head. He was also looking forward to Qin Hao's outstanding performance in the Medicine Valley. He had even teamed up with Qin Hao to fight against the other academies before the assessment. But now, it had to be said that Qi Yang's team had lost a genius with amazing combat strength. Qin Hao, TSK. Bai Lang snorted and curled his lips. What do you do here? Even if he doesn't die, once he enters the Medicine Valley, he'll be beaten to a pulp by Mad Dragon, Star Moon, and Shifang. He'll have to kneel down and call me Grandpa. Bai Lang knew very well that Qin Hao had killed Ren Xiaoyao from Shifang Academy in Dan Ji's alchemist competition. He had stolen Huang Tianba's family heirloom, the furnace of good fortune. Moreover, he had extorted 200,000 earth crystals from Yi Ziming from Star Moon Academy. It would have been fine if Qin Hao didn't come. But after he came, he was beaten to a pulp. In comparison, it was Qin Hao's honor to die early in the catacombs. After all, he wouldn't have to suffer Huang Tianba's revenge. That's right. Even if that ant didn't die, I would personally crush his bones and scatter his ashes to vent my hatred and comfort my brother, Duan Shuelio's soul in heaven. Duan Huilu roared like a wild beast in front of everyone. He had hoped that Qin Hao didn't die and entered the Medicine Valley with the team. That way, he could avenge his brother. He would make Qin Hao suffer a fate worse than death. However, Qin Hao had died early. Duan Huilu was lucky. When Bai Lang heard this, the arrogance on his face became even more unbridled. Qin Hao not only had enemies outside the academy, but he also had a natural enemy inside the academy. This kid was really tired of living by causing trouble everywhere. People like him who were in the limelight never had a good ending. Who asked Qin how to refine a king-grade pill that was even better than Bai Lang's alchemy skills? Therefore, Qin Hao deserved to die. Although my big brother isn't here, if you want revenge, come at me. Xiaogua will take it. Xiaogua's face darkened, and he stared at Duan Huilu without fear. In the past 2 months, he and Lin Feng had received cruel training from the 10 elders of the inner court every day. They had also entered the pressure room to train and soak their bodies in the blood pool of the inner court. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds. He didn't fear Duan Huilu at all. As a member of the Grand Alliance, Xiaogua had the responsibility to protect Qin Hao's dignity. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare you challenge senior brother Duan Huilu? You won't even know how you die when you enter the Medicine Valley. If I were you, I would curse Qin Hao 10,000 times and then kneel at senior brother Duan Huilio's feet and beg for his protection. Bai Lang said sarcastically. He also looked at Duan Huilu with a fawning look, meaning that as long as he was willing, Bai Lang was willing to serve him. Indeed, after entering the valley, I will kill you first, then I will kill Lin Feng, and then I will kill the 2 women. In short, I will kill everyone who is related to Qin Hao. I will kill them all. As for Bai Lang, you've done well. I allow you to be my follower. Duan Huilu replied fiercely and then patted Bai Lang's shoulder. Chapter 691. Lin Feng, Naransu, and Nalan Li were furious. They clenched their fists and stood in a row with Xiaogua, glaring at Bai Lang and Duan Huilu. They were members of the Grand Alliance, but Duan Huilu had declared that he would destroy the entire Grand Alliance and treat them like ants. Yao Lao did not stop the disciples, who were supposed to be united against the other 3 courtyards, from fighting amongst themselves. Even if he did, it would be useless. Once the students entered the Medicine Valley, it was up to fate. Yao Lao and the higher-ups of the other 3 academies were not allowed to enter the Medicine Valley. If they entered, they would be on another level. They might alert the Beast Masters and Beast Emperors in the Medicine Valley and cause a large-scale conflict. You're a disciple of the same sect, and you're a senior, but you're bullying the members of the Grand Alliance when Qin Hao is not here. Duan Huilu, don't go too far. Xinyuan Wuhuang said in a low voice. He could not stand it anymore. His words frightened Bai Lang. He quickly lowered his head and shrank back with an apologetic smile. So what if I'm going too far? Do you want to meddle in other people's business? You'd better take care of yourself first. Huang Tiandu of the Mad Dragon Academy has been itching to fight you for a long time. You, Xinyuan Wuhuang, can't even protect yourself. Duan Huilu crossed his arms and sneered. He was not afraid of Xinyuan Wuhuang at all. Usually, he would tolerate him, but today was different. Today, not only did he have to face the demonic beasts of the Medicine Valley, but he also had to face competitors from the other 3 academies. Xinyuan Wuhuang had a personal feud with Huang Tiandu, a disciple of the Mad Dragon Academy. If he went in, he would not help Xiaogua. Ha! Duan Huilu is right. Today I, Huang Tiandu, am looking forward to fighting with you, Xinyuan Wuhuang. Let's fight to the death. While they were stunned, an unfamiliar laughter rang out. The voice was extremely loud, and it was extremely savage and vicious. Instantly, everyone turned to look at the source of the sound. They saw a group of people wearing golden robes with dragon heads embroidered on the chest walking toward them. This was the representative team of the Mad Dragon Academy. Every member had an arrogant expression, The one who spoke was a young man with a majestic figure. His body was covered with bulging muscles, and he looked very fierce. This person was very tall, but there wasn't a trace of sluggishness when he walked. Instead, his body was very well proportioned. If Qin Hao were here, he would definitely recognize him. He was Huang Tianba's big brother, the second-ranked disciple of the Wild Dragon Pavilion. Huang Tiandu. At this moment, as the Wild Dragon Academy's team entered the arena, the person walking at the very front was not the arrogant and unbridled Huang Tiandu. In front of Huang Tiandu, there was a mysterious man wearing a golden robe, his face covered by a wide hood. The aura was Hua Lu's, Hua was Huang's. Without a doubt, the Hua fan, the leader of the Mad Hua Academy team. However, this number one person in the Wild Dragon Academy was extremely mysterious. Not only did no one in the outside world know his identity, even the elders of the Wild Dragon Academy had never seen his true appearance. Even so, he was publicly recognized as the strongest person. Rumor had it that he was even stronger than Yi Wuhan, the legend of the Red Sun Academy. Among the four great academies, only the Star Moon Academy's Hua Hua Hua, who was also Yi Ziming's cousin Yi Shui Feng, had the ability to compete with the Hua fan. Huang Tiandu. Xin Yuan Huang's face fell as he spoke coldly. His battle intent rose unconsciously. However, at this moment, he was not particularly concerned about Huang Tiandu instead. He was looking at the Hua fan in fear. Xin Yuan Wu Huang could feel a heavy pressure coming from the other party. In front of this pressure, Xin Yuan Wu Huang, who was a 5-star Yuan monarch, could not muster up any courage to fight back. The other party was indeed an extremely powerful person. Speaking of which, the mysterious golden robe man's performance was also very interesting. Although he did not speak, his hooded face scanned all the disciples of the Red Sun Academy, as if he was looking for someone. However, he shook his head in disappointment. Judging from his performance, he did not find the ideal opponent. This person is very strong. If you are unlucky enough to meet him in the Medicine Valley, I advise you to run away immediately. A voice silently echoed in the minds of all the disciples of the Red Sun Academy. It also reached Xiaogua's mind. Xiaogua was stunned. He looked at Yi Wuhan in disbelief. It was actually Yi Wuhan who was warning everyone. This was unexpected. At this moment, Yi Wuhan was still expressionless. However, Xiaogua noticed that Yi Wuhan's hands were trembling. This meant that the mysterious golden robe man from the Mad Dragon Academy was very strong. It was very likely that he was in existence that even Yi Wuhan could not defeat. Where is Qin Hao? Has Qin Hao, that bastard, returned? A loud shout was heard. Suddenly, a group of people wearing blue robes with starlight patterns flashing on their chests walked over. It was the representative team of the Star Moon Academy, the head of the four great academies. The person who spoke was none other than Yi Ziming, who had lost 200,000 Earth crystal stones to Qin Hao. Moreover, Yi Ziming took the lead and swaggered into the field with his team. He was the second disciple on the heaven ranking. However, the first disciple on the heaven ranking was like a son of a bitch, following behind Yi Ziming. In addition, there were two inner disciples of the Star Moon Academy who helplessly followed behind Yi Ziming. It was easy to imagine how high Yi Ziming's status was. Although his strength was only SOSO, his surname was Yi. He was a member of the Luo Shui royal family. Yi Ziming also had a genius cousin who was a major general in one of the Luo Shui legions. The strange thing was that his genius cousin, Yi Shui Feng, was not present. After walking into the field, Yi Ziming looked around viciously. He did not find Qin Hao's figure. Thus, he sorrowfully raised his head and roared, "Looks like that bastard really died in the eastern suburbs of the Imperial Mausoleum. The heavens are really blind. They should have let him live, and then I, Yi Ziming, will tear him into pieces. This is Qin Hao's glory. Only his death has value. Ha ha ha, senior brother Yi. Although Qin Hao was lucky enough to die, his Grand Alliance members are still here. You can kill all these lowly people after you enter the Medicinal Valley." When Bai Lang saw this, he happily came up and pointed at Xiaogua and the others. After speaking, Bai Lang leaned on Yi Ziming's crotch and said, "Actually, Lang Lang has admired senior brother Yi for a long time. Of course, I admire your genius cousin, Major General Yi, even more. If you don't mind, Lang Lang hopes to be your little follower. I'll be willing to die for you." Bai Lang, didn't you just swear to be my henchman? When Duan Holyo saw this, he was furious. Who do you think you are? Are you worthy? Bai Lang spat at Duan Holyo and pointed at the Star Moon Academy team and said, "Only the Star Moon team led by senior brother Yi is worthy to be Lang Lang's master and protect me in the Medicinal Valley. And the Chiang Trash team can't even withstand a single blow. Oh, sorry. Please forgive me in front of the Vice President." Chapter 692. As a Yuan venerate powerhouse, Yao Lao couldn't be bothered with Bai Lang. A disciple with such bad conduct would have a limited future. It would be better for him to get kicked out of the academy as soon as possible. However, this infuriated Lin Feng and the others. Even Yu Wuhan looked at Bai Lang with disdain. He's right. Only the representative team of Star Moon Academy has the ability to survive in the Medicine Valley. As for you people from Qiyang Academy, forgive me for being blunt, but you're all just trash. Everyone was stunned. A haughty voice was heard coming from the top of the city wall. Before anyone could turn around to look, the figure had already leaped down. The figure drew a beautiful arc in the air and landed below the platform. It landed right in front of Yu Wuhan. It was a handsome young general in his mid-20s. He was wearing snow-white armor and a silver tiger helmet. 2 ribbons floated on his shoulders. His eyebrows were somewhat similar to Yi Ziming's. There was no doubt that he was Yi Ziming's cousin, the top person in Star Moon Academy's cabinet, and the one who held the rank of Luo Shui Major General. Yi Shuifeng. The legion guarding this city wall was called the Whitewater Legion. Yi Shuifeng's father was the supreme commander of the Whitewater Legion. In other words, Yi Shuifeng was the junior commander. He held an official position and had been ordered to guard the city wall 2 months ago. That was why he hadn't come with the Star Moon Academy team. Cousin, Yi Ziming was overjoyed. His eyes were filled with excitement and admiration. Because of his cousin's support, Yi Ziming dared to be the leader so openly. Even the other 2 cabinet disciples, Xingyu, had to follow behind him obediently. "Oomph, you still have the cheek to call me cousin? You actually lost 200,000 earth crystals to Qin Hao. You've lost the face of our branch. In my eyes, you're also trash. You're no better than Qiyang Academy's people. However, you're luckier than them. At the very least, you're related to me." Yi Shuifeng reprimanded him coldly. The imperial family was a large family, and there were also many members of the branch families. Everyone wanted to be in the limelight, fight for power, and scheme against each other. For this, they did not hesitate to kill each other. Therefore, in terms of kinship, they were not as good as ordinary families. Being reprimanded by Yi Ziming, of course, Yi Ziming did not feel good about it. Moreover, he had been called trash by the other party. However, he did not dare to resist. He could only lower his head in humiliation and clench his fists tightly. In his heart, he vented his anger on Qin Hao. Everything was Qin Hao's fault. Yi Ziming really hoped that Qin Hao was not dead so that he could personally execute him. "Oh, Yi Wuhan, what are you looking at? Are you unhappy that I called Qi Yang a piece of trash? If you're not convinced, you can challenge me, Yi Shuifeng, after we enter the Medicine Valley. Let's see how the second in the Star Moon Pavilion will crush you, the first in the Scarlet Sun Pavilion." At this time, Yi Shuifeng noticed that Yi Wuhan was looking at him. In the next second, he said coldly and even clenched his fist. "Oomph." Yi Wuhan snorted coldly and closed his eyes again. "You with the surname Yi, you're very arrogant. Since you're so arrogant, I'm very happy to challenge you. Let's see if your dog life can withstand 2 moves from me." Suddenly, a cold voice came from the Mad Dragon representative team. The tone was filled with undisguised ridicule. 2 moves? This was simply looking down on Yi Shuifeng and trampling on him. As the Major General of the Whitewater Corps, Yi Shuifeng was the center of attention no matter where he went. In the Star Moon Academy, he was the goal of all the male disciples and the ideal lover of all the female disciples. Today, he was actually provoked by trash from the Mad Dragon Academy. Therefore, he immediately turned his head to look. In the end, he was stunned by what he saw. At first, he thought that it was Huang Tiandu's fart. However, after turning his head, he realized that it was the mysterious golden-robed person. Moreover, the mysterious golden-robed person was emitting an extremely mysterious water vapor. The energy was incomparably pure, causing fear in people's hearts. Judging from the aura, the other party's cultivation was not inferior to Yi Shuifeng's. In an instant, Yi Shuifeng's arrogant face immediately withdrew. He coldly nodded and said, "Good, good. I will remember your words." After speaking, he retreated to the Star Moon Academy team. This scene made Yi Ziming extremely shocked. In his impression, his cousin had always been an extremely powerful existence. Not to mention being provoked. If anyone dared to look at him rudely, Yi Shuifeng would immediately kill them in the next second. After all, he was from a branch of the imperial family and had a noble status. Moreover, he was a junior that even Yi Longyuan appreciated. However, today he actually cowered in front of the mysterious golden-robed person from the Mad Dragon Academy. This was simply unimaginable. That's not right. Cousin, aren't you the #1 person in the inner pavilion? Why did you just say that you were? Yi Ziming was even more shocked to discover that his cousin had just called himself the #2 in the Star Moon Academy. Yi Shuifeng, a junior that even the Emperor of the Dragon Abyss appreciated, his incomparably powerful cousin, when had the #1 position in the inner pavilion been replaced by someone else. At this moment, the disciples of the Mad Dragon Academy and the Red Sun Academy were all extremely shocked. Shuifeng is indeed an extremely outstanding genius. However, in front of me, he naturally has to admit defeat. Suddenly, a voice came from behind the crowd. It was filled with malice and sent chills down their spines. Everyone hurriedly turned around to look. At first glance, Xiaoguo was stunned. Tian Buoguang. At this moment, Tian Buoguang slowly walked over. Moreover, there was a sinister black aura surrounding his body. His previously dashing white clothes had also turned black. Half of his originally handsome face was now covered with strange stripes, making him look like a demon. Young Master Tian. Seeing Tian Buoguang walk over, Yi Shuifeng cupped his hands in a friendly manner. As he looked at Tian Buoguang, a hint of respect flashed in his eyes. The current Tian Buoguang was indeed qualified enough to make Yi Shuifeng respect him and willingly give up the #1 position. F***CK. This is impossible, right? Don't tell me that the #1 person in the Star Moon Academy is actually you, Tian Buoguang. Yi Ziming pointed at Tian Buoguang with a twisted expression. Although Tian Buoguang had a grandfather who was the chief dean, he used to be a disciple on the Earth Roll of the Outer Court. However, in just half a year, he had become the #1 person in the Inner Court, surpassing Yi Shuifeng. Wasn't his progress a bit too exaggerated? Could it be that he had taken advantage of his grandfather's authority to obtain a false reputation? Immediately, Yi Ziming's face was filled with disdain. In the past, he didn't think that Tian Buoguang was that great. After all, they were both Essence Soul Realm geniuses. Slap! Yi Shuifeng slapped Yi Ziming's face and shouted, "What was that look on your face just now? If you dare to be rude to young Master Tian again, don't blame me for killing you." This slap immediately stunned Yi Ziming. He never thought that his cousin, who was his idol, would lower himself to help Tian Buoguang. Forget it, Shuifeng. Yi Ziming is insensible. I don't blame him. At this moment, Tian Buoguang said coldly. His temperament was much more stable than before. In the past, if Yi Ziming had dared to look down on him, he would have used his soul fire to burn the other party to ashes. However, in Tian Buoguang's eyes, Yi Ziming was inferior to an ant. To put it bluntly, Tian Buoguang's current cultivation level was so strong that his grandfather could fight him to a draw even after lowering his cultivation level. This was rather terrifying. It could be said that Tian Buoguang's existence below the supremacy level was equivalent to that of a god. Since he thought that he was a god, why would he bother with an ant like Yi Ziming? As for you, who is wearing a golden robe and a hood and doesn't dare to show your face, since you have openly provoked Starry Moon College, I, Tian Buoguang, will accept your challenge on behalf of Brother Shueifeng. You are merely a level 6 Yuan Monarch. You are simply overestimating yourself. I can destroy you with a single palm strike. Chapter 693. On one hand, there was Tian Boguang, who had undergone a tremendous transformation. He was the grandson of the Star Moon College Dean. On the other hand, there was the most mysterious person in the inner cabinet of Mad Dragon College. He was so mysterious that even the elders were not qualified to see his true face. There was a strong smell of gunpowder between the two of them. When their gazes met, there was an invisible flame. No one knew who would win if they really fought. So what if you were a mere level 6 Yuan Monarch? You were just so. After a short few seconds, the mysterious man in the golden robe said coldly. He stretched out his little finger and poked Tian Boguang's face before returning to Mad Dragon College's team. Hiss! The conversation between the two of them shocked everyone present. In less than half a year, Tian Boguang had risen from a mortal sage to a level 6 Yuan Monarch. How fast was that? The mysterious man in the golden robe was not weaker than Tian Boguang. At that moment, Yao Lao's expression finally changed slightly. He looked at Tian Boguang with a heavy gaze. He naturally sensed that the other party was not a simple level 6 Yuan Monarch. If he used his full strength, he would not be afraid of a peak Yuan Monarch. In comparison, Yi Wuhan, who had created the legend of Qi Yang, was indeed weaker. The overall strength of Qi Yang's team was not small compared to Star Moon College and Mad Dragon College. Sigh. Thinking up to this point, Yao Lao sighed softly as he thought of Qin Hao. If only Qin Hao was here. That fellow had always been an unstable factor and always brought about unexpected miracles. Oh, everyone is here? How can 10 Directions Academy be left out? Then, another voice was heard. Following that, a group of people in dirt gray clothes with a cross embroidered on their chests stepped into the arena. The person in the lead was a young man with a long face and a donkey face. The corners of his mouth held a frivolous and teasing smile, and his entire body emitted a frivolous and playful demeanor. Behind him was a young man with slippers and a young man with a gored face. In terms of appearance, the aura of these three people could not be compared to Tian Boguang and Yi Shueifeng of Star Moon College, let alone the mysterious man in the golden robe of Mad Dragon College. However, the viciousness hidden in the corners of their eyes showed that they were not ordinary people. Naturally cold, Yi Shueifeng was stunned. The leader of the School of 10 Directions was none other than the #1 figure in the inner pavilion. His cultivation was only slightly weaker than Yi Shueifeng's, but in reality, Yi Shueifeng's chances of winning were not too high. On the contrary, when it came to fighting desperately, naturally Liang was much more ruthless than Yi Shueifeng. Major General Yi, long time no see. Oh, isn't this the Wild Dragon Academy's Huang Tiandu? You're still the same. I don't think your strength has improved. Naturally, he laughed coldly. Due to his long face, his smile was very wretched. But when he saw Tian Boguang and the mysterious golden-robed man, his naturally cold smile suddenly froze, revealing a rare, dignified expression. In response, Tian Boguang and the golden-robed, mysterious man sneered. Since everyone is here, I'll have to trouble Senior Yao to activate the Crimson Sun teleportation formation and send us into the Medicine Valley. At this time, Tian Boguang also spoke to Yao Lao with an expressionless face. There was no respect in his tone, and it was filled with unconcealable hatred. During the Rising Star competition, if it wasn't for the ugly Yao Lao in front of him, Tian Boguang's grandfather would have already killed Qin Hao. Losing to Qin Hao was the shame of Tian Boguang's life, and this shame was something he would never have the chance to wash away in his lifetime. In response, the members of the other academies also spoke one after another, requesting to activate the teleportation formation. They couldn't wait to show off their talents. To be precise, they couldn't wait to kill their opponents. Everyone present understood that today was their graduation ceremony. After graduation, those who survived would truly stand at the peak of martial arts and become a generation of powerhouses that dominated the land of Western Lyon. And for this generation of powerhouses, the fewer the better. Vice President, I hope you can extend the deadline a little more. Wait for my big brother, Qin Hao. My big brother will definitely come. Xiaogua stepped forward and said with an anxious expression, entering the Medicine Valley has always been Brother Qin Hao's dream. If he misses today, he won't have another chance. Please have mercy, Vice President. Nalanli also spoke with a pleading face. Vice President, please have mercy. Vice President, please have mercy. Lin Feng and Han Man spoke one after another, including Xinyuan Wuhuang. Everyone had a vague feeling in their hearts that Qin Hao was not dead and was on the way. Qin Hao, the guy who killed Ren Xiaoyao, a disciple on the heaven list of our 10 Directions Academy? When Natural Liang heard this, his eyes suddenly narrowed. Yes, senior brother Natural Liang. It's Qin Hao who killed Ren Xiaoyao in the alchemy competition. He also declared that the 10 Directions Academy was a bunch of trash, deliberately smearing the reputation of the 10 Directions Academy. My name is Lang Lang, and I've admired senior brother Natural Liang for a long time. If you don't mind, I'm willing to serve senior brother Natural Liang. Bai Lang cupped his hands and bent his waist. His voice was low and submissive. He walked in front of Natural Liang with a face full of flattery. Ew. When Yi Ziming saw this, he couldn't help but be angry. He pointed at Bai Lang and said, Bai Lang, didn't you just say that you want to be my lackey? Sorry, Brother Ziming, please don't misunderstand me. I, Bai Lang, am a proud man. How can I be your lackey? What I mean is that I want to be a servant to senior brother Shui Feng or young Master Bo Guang. However, they don't seem to be interested in me, so Lang Lang will definitely choose someone else. Senior brother Natural Yang, you're a virtuous master that the heavens have given me. I'm living for senior brother Natural Yang. Bai Lang talked nonstop. He completely treated himself as Natural Liang's dog, and even if the other party didn't agree, he had already thrown himself at him. Bah, what a piece of trash. Trash. I've seen a lot of scum, but this is the first time I've seen one as shameless as Qi Yang. In an instant, Bai Lang's behavior attracted the disdain of the 3 teams. As for Qiyang University, they felt nothing but shame, and they wanted nothing more than to strangle Bai Lang to death. Ah, you look quite smart. That's good. I'll reluctantly accept you as Qi Yang's lackey. If Qi Yang and the others are interested, they can also work for me like Bai Lang. Especially these 2 little beauties. I'll take special care of you. Natural Yang felt that he had gained a lot of face by humiliating Qiyang University in front of Yao Lao. However, he was more interested in the 2 sisters, Naransu and Nalanli. At this moment, he looked at them with a lustful gaze. He couldn't help but drool from the corners of his mouth. He was like a big wolf with a big tail. When Xiaogua saw this, his face fell. He used his body to block Bai Lang. This immediately attracted Natural Liang's dissatisfaction. Senior brother Natural Liang, to be honest, those 2 girls and this reckless brat in front of you are all Qin Hao's. Bai Lang stood on tiptoe and whispered a few words into Natural Liang's ear with a smirk. Okay, in that case, Qin Hao killed Ren Xiaoyao and put all the blame on the Grand Alliance. Natural Liang shouted and gave a look to all the members of the School of 10 Directions behind him. He meant that after entering the Medicine Valley, they should treat Xiaogua and the others specially and ruthlessly. As for the 2 girls, they must be treated ruthlessly after they had a taste. Okay, I can't wait any longer. Elder Qiyang, please activate the transmission array. In the end, Natural Liang pointed at Yao Lao's nose arrogantly. He still didn't know that Yao Lao was Qi Yang's vice president. Wait a little longer. Wait for Qin Hao to come. In response, Yao Lao put his hands behind his back and said calmly. He didn't even bother to look at Natural Liang. In Yao Lao's eyes, Natural Liang was completely trash. What? Who do you want us to wait for? Qin Hao. At this moment, Tian Boguang, Yi Shui Feng, Huang Tiandu, and Natural Liang were all stunned. Not to mention that Qin Hao died in the Imperial Mausoleum in the eastern suburbs and couldn't make it in time to enter the Medicine Valley. Even if Qin Hao didn't die, What right did he have to make so many geniuses of the three academies, a total of 40 people, wait for Qin Hao alone? Even Yi Wuhan didn't expect Yao Lao to be so straightforward. If Yi Wuhan didn't make it in time for the Medicine Valley to open, would Yao Lao open the back door for Yi Wuhan like he did for Qin Hao? The answer was no. Yi Wuhan could totally imagine that Yao Lao definitely wouldn't. Thank you, Vice President. Sayogwa and the others were instantly overjoyed. Everyone in the Haochi Alliance could not help but feel a sense of pride on their faces. The Alliance Master was really prestigious. The Vice President was personally supporting them. This was a precedent set by the previous Medicine Valley teams. If word got out, the members of the Haochi Alliance would be extremely honored. Vice President of the Medicine Valley, this is against the rules. I'm afraid it's not appropriate, Yi Shuifeng said coldly. In his heart, if it wasn't for Yi Ziming, he wouldn't even know who Qin Hao was. Yi Shuifeng didn't even care about Yi Wuhan. As the vice president of Qian University, he wanted him to wait for Qin Hao, who was clearly a dead ant. Was this bullshit? Haha, you're wasting my time. Not only are you wasting my time, you're also wasting the time of all the geniuses of the three academies. As the vice president of Qian University, you're abusing your power. You've made me, Bai Lang, very disappointed. It also makes me very disgusted with Qian University. Bai Lang snorted and said, Slap. Bai Lang's response was a loud slap in the face. However, it wasn't Yao Lao who slapped him. Instead, a stream of vitality flew out of the field. The force was so strong that it made Bai Lang spin 3 times in the air. 2 broken teeth, mixed with blood, spat out, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, a young girl in a white phoenix dress walked over with light steps. She exuded a cold aura. Who are you? How dare you slap my face? Bai Lang suddenly got up and pointed at Xing furiously. Although this girl was unbelievably beautiful, so beautiful that she was practically bubbling, it was wrong to slap someone's face. You get out. From now on, you're no longer a disciple of Qian University. You don't have to enter the Medicine Valley anymore. Chapter 694. Of course she has the right to revoke your status as Qi Yang's disciple and replace you, Bai Lang, to enter the Medicine Valley. Because Xing is the vice president's direct disciple. Her words are equivalent to the vice president's orders. Isn't that right, old man? A playful voice drifted over from afar. It was a voice that Sayogwa and the others were all too familiar with. Then, Qin Hao, dressed in snow-white clothes, appeared unexpectedly. His steps seemed to be very light, but strangely there was no sound of wind. He deliberately walked past Tian Boguang, Yi Shuifeng, and the mysterious golden-robed man like a breeze, but did not move a single strand of their hair. It was obvious that Qin Hao's cultivation had undergone a qualitative change after he disappeared and reappeared. Qin Hao smiled and walked to Yao Lao, ignoring Tian Boguang from beginning to end. He completely regarded the dozens of geniuses from the 3 academies as heir. Big Brother Qin Hao, Alliance Leader, Sayogwa, Nalan Li, and the others had intense emotions on their faces. Their eyes were sparkling with tears. When they learned that Qin Hao was buried in the eastern suburbs Imperial Mausoleum, there was no news of him. At that moment, everyone felt as if a mountain was pressing down on their hearts, suffocating them. But they never gave up. They always believed that Qin Hao was still alive. The heavens had eyes. Qin Hao had indeed returned in one piece, and he even made it in time for the opening of the Medicine Valley. The mountain pressing down on the hearts of Sayogwa and the others suddenly dissipated, and they were filled with joy. However, the observant Nalan Li discovered that Qin Hao's hair on his temples had turned white. Qin Hao, Tian Boguang instantly clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, You incomparably arrogant bastard, you're actually still alive. Not only are you alive, but after coming here, you dare to treat all the geniuses from the 3 academies as heir. Kuang Long, Xing Yue, and the disciples of the 10 Directions Institute all blurted out in anger. They were all top geniuses and had never been treated with such disdain, whether in their clans or in the Institute. Big bro Qin Hao, I'm really happy that you're back. But it's better that you don't enter the Medicine Valley. These bad guys have agreed to gang up on you. Nalanli couldn't help but remind him. Although he knew that Qin Hao's cultivation was extraordinary, he was not afraid of any provocation. However, the people who entered the Medicine Valley this time were all incomparably profound. Nalanli was very afraid that something would happen to Qin Hao. As for the herbs that Qin Hao needed, she and Xiaogua could help find them. In response, Qin Hao shook his head firmly. Reviving the core Xian was Qin Hao's responsibility as a disciple. Moreover, he had also heard the malicious words that Nature Liang and Yi Ziming said about the members of the Haoqi Alliance. Would they give up on dealing with Xiaogua if he didn't go in? Little Li was too naive. This time, Qin Hao had to go. Even if he had many enemies and all of them had extraordinary skills, even if he knew that he would most likely die, what Qin Hao needed to do was to revive the core Xian, protect the members of the Haoqi Alliance, and bring them out safely. If he didn't, he wouldn't be worthy of being someone else's disciple and the leader of the Haoqi Alliance. I don't want to say too much. Old man, activate the transportation portal now. In the next moment, Qin Hao spoke to Yao Lao again. Yao Lao nodded. Ever since Qin Hao came, the frown on his face had completely disappeared. Although he really wanted to pull Qin Hao over and ask him what exactly happened in the underground cavern of the Imperial Mausoleum in the eastern suburbs. However, since Qin Hao's appearance changed slightly after his return, it should be something very sad. Now that the Medicine Valley was about to open, there was no time to delay. He could only wait for Qin Hao to come out and ask him again. Wait, Bai Lang shouted. He walked to Qin Hao with a twisted expression. I need an explanation. What did you mean just now? Why does this woman have to take my spot? Didn't Qin Hao make it clear enough? She is my disciple. This time, Yao Lao took the initiative to stand up and point at Xing Er. His eyes were filled with satisfaction. Then, Yao Lao's expression darkened. He waved at Bai Lang coldly. After you graduate, old man can't control you. Unfortunately, you're still Qi Yang's disciple today. You haven't F*King graduated yet. Now, I've decided to fire you and let my disciple enter the Medicine Valley. What do you have to say about that? Crack. This was no doubt a shocking thunderbolt that exploded in Bai Lang's mind. He found it hard to accept. Based on the current situation, it was true that he still belonged to Qi Yang's team. As the vice president, Yao Lao had the right to decide who would replace Qi Yang to enter the Medicine Valley. However, I'm not convinced. So what if she's your disciple? Is her cultivation higher than mine? Is she stronger than me? You're using your status to take away my spot and ruin my future. You're too vicious. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world? Bai Lang shouted and screamed like a madman. He had thought that he would soar into the sky today. That was why he had planned his path in advance, even if he had to become someone's lackey. However, with Qin Hao's arrival, everything changed. It was as if Bai Lang had fallen from the clouds into the abyss. In reality, there was a special reason why Xing Er was not on the team list before. The only person Xing Er cared about was Qin Hao. For Qin Hao, she was obedient and took the initiative to acknowledge Yao Lao as her master. If Qin Hao did not come, there would be no point for her to go to the Medicine Valley. These 2 months, Xing was in pain every day. She felt empty inside. If Haidafu had not returned with the old demon, and if the old demon had not promised that Qin Hao was still alive, Xing Er might have committed suicide due to depression. After all, the old demon's soul was controlled by Qin Hao. If Qin Hao died in the catacombs, the old demon would definitely be finished in the outside world. With this belief, Xing Er waited silently in anxiety. Today, she finally met Qin Hao outside the Imperial Mausoleum. After telling him about the opening of the Medicine Valley, the two of them rushed over without stopping. Bang! In the face of Bai Lang's heart-wrenching yelling, Xing Er attacked. A simple Yuan Qi attack came. Her movements were casual, and it was completely a casual sweep. However, a ray of red light burst forth from it. It was as if a sledgehammer had hit Bai Lang's chest. He was sent flying 10 meters into the air. Without any resistance, he fell heavily at Qin Hao's feet. Strength? Tell me, In the face of a Yuan king, how can a mere mortal sage compare to Shang Er? Why do you have to boast shamelessly? Qin Hao bent down. His eyes emitted a cold aura. The two tufts of white hair at his temples floated in the wind. His image was like a mountain that couldn't be moved. In an instant, Bai Lang was intimidated. Boom! At the same time, everyone was shocked. Everyone, including Xiaogua, looked at Xing Er in disbelief. The heaven-rolled disciples of the other three academies, and even the high and mighty inner court disciples, felt their necks go numb. At first, they only noticed Xing Er's beauty but neglected her cultivation. Now, this attack proved that Xing Er was a king-level powerhouse. King-level powerhouses were the symbol of inner court disciples. Their quality far surpassed that of heaven-rolled disciples. If Duan Huigang, Xinyuan Wu Huang, and Yu Wuhin were counted, the number of inner court disciples was as high as 4. This had already surpassed Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy. It was on par with the number of inner court disciples of Star Moon Academy, the head of the 4 major academies. Chapter 695. The two of them had always felt that Qin Hao would be the first to become a member of the inner sect. After all, Qin Hao's shocking performance in the inner sect's heavenless competition was the best proof. Yet a woman had gotten there first. Yi Wuhin and Xinyuan Wu Huang were not prepared at all and were completely unaware. At this moment, they couldn't help but pay more attention to Xing Er. Bai Lang didn't feel so good. He lay on the ground, his face twisted to the extreme. Disappointment, hatred, unwillingness, his expression changed rapidly. But he suddenly thought of something. He quickly got up and crawled to Nature Cold's feet like a dog. His hands gripped Nature Cold's pants tightly. Bai Lang forced a smile and said, "Master, I've been ruthlessly kicked out of the team by Old Man Qiyong, but you won't give up on me, right? Why don't you kill a member of the 10 Direction battle team and let Lang Lang take his place in the Medicine Valley?" When these words came out, the members of the 10 Direction battle team couldn't help but shiver. Bai Lang was simply shameless to the extreme. He was really too insidious. "Sorry, you're thinking too much. I'll count to 3 and you'll immediately remove your dog paws from my pants. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." To this, Nature Cold refused with a cold attitude. Although Nature Cold wasn't a good person, he wasn't crazy enough to kill his own junior. He was very familiar with every junior in the 10 Direction battle team. A fence-sitter like Bai Lang was too unstable. It wasn't worth it to destroy the unity of the team for an unstable person. No, don't be so heartless. Lang Lang's loyalty to Master can be seen by the heavens and the sun and moon. As long as you promote me a little, I'll repay you with my life in the future. Bai Lang's face was sullen, and he was incomparably nervous. Not only did he not loosen his grip on Nature Cold's pants, he tightened it even more until Nature Cold's belt was loosening. He deeply understood that if he let go, it was equivalent to giving up his own future. "Let go, you better King let go. Do you believe I won't kick you to death?" Nature Cold also tightened his hands on his belt and said angrily. He felt that he had lost face. "Just kick me death. If even Master gives up on Lang Lang, then what's the point of me living?" Bai Lang didn't give up. He really wanted to enter the Medicine Valley. He really wanted to become a strong person in the future. He definitely wouldn't give up. "Hey, Old Man Qiyong, aren't you going to take care of your trash disciple? He's really too shameless. Otherwise, I won't be polite anymore." Naturally, Liang was furious. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of Yao Lao's presence, then he definitely would have attacked and killed Bai Lang. "I'm sorry, I made it very clear just now. This person is no longer my disciple." In response, Yao Lao coldly smiled. The moment Bai Lang gave up on Qiyong, he was destined to be abandoned by Qiyong. "Are you sure?" Natural Cold shouted, and a surge of essence Qi emerged from his body, giving off an intense red light. He felt that his pants were about to be torn apart. If he didn't stop Bai Lang, then he would make a fool of himself in front of everyone. "I'm sure." Yao Lao made another statement. "Very well then, I'll send this annoying dog to the Western Paradise. Die." Natural Cold stretched out his right hand and turned it into a palm. His palm emitted a red light, and fiercely hit the top of Bai Lang's head. Pa! Accompanied by the crisp sound of bones breaking, a hot stream of blood flowed from Bai Lang's forehead. His eyes widened, and his movements stopped abruptly. Natural cold. F***CK your father. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Lang fell to the ground, and there was a ripping sound. Before he died, he forcefully tore apart one of Natural Cold's pants. Mother ***cur. So ***king unlucky. Natural Cold kicked Bai Lang's hand away with his foot and hurriedly took out a cloak from his space ring and quickly put it on himself. Only then did he not make a fool of himself. Sigh. Looking at Bai Lang's corpse, Han Man sighed. Bai Lang could be considered one of the top figures in the inner courtyard. If he hadn't courted death, then he wouldn't have ended up like this. So he walked over and closed Bai Lang's eyes. Qin Hao, this person's end will also be your end in the Medicine Valley, Tian Boiwang said through gritted teeth. After Qin Hao's arrival, Tian Boiwang could no longer maintain his calm and instantly returned to his previous impetuous state. It was as if the image of losing to Qin Hao flashed before his eyes. That's right, with my cousin here today, you'll definitely die. Yi Ziming clenched his fists. Don't forget the warning I, Huang Tianba, gave you during the alchemist competition. Huang Tianba crossed his arms and stood beside his elder brother, Huang Tiandu. The two of them looked at Qin Hao and sneered. Haha, interesting. The mysterious golden-robed man also snorted in an unfriendly manner. He seemed to be filled with a strange interest in Qin Hao. At this moment, almost all eyes were focused on Qin Hao alone. It was as if Qin Hao was attempting pastry. Once he entered the Medicine Valley, it would be ripe. At that time, he would be torn apart by the crowd. Young master, let's go. Xing ignored these hateful gazes and stood by Qin Hao's side. Qin Hao nodded. Then he looked at Xiaohua, Lin Feng, and the others. Everyone nodded in tacit understanding. Follow me, all of you. With everyone present, Yao Lao waved his hand and led the four teams out of the general appointment stage square in four formations. They walked towards a corner of the canyon. That was the large formation that transported them to the interior of the Medicine Valley forest. Along the way, although everyone was silent, Tian Boiwang and the others' gazes never left Qin Hao. Qin Hao, let me give you a piece of advice. After entering the Medicine Valley, try to suppress your aura as much as possible to avoid being discovered by them. Don't give them any chance to launch a group attack. At this time, Xinyuan Wuhuang transmitted his voice. Also, you have to pay attention to a few people. Yi Shuifeng in silver armor is stronger than Yi Wuhin and me. Natural Cold from the 10 Directions Academy, and the two lackeys behind Natural Cold. The two young men with gourd-shaped faces and slipper-face faces are both mid-level King Realm. The three of them specialize in joint attacks and are very powerful. People. These are actually not the most powerful. You have to pay special attention to Tian Boiwang and the mysterious golden-robed man from the Wild Dragon Academy. These two people are existences that Yi Wuhin and I can't fight against. Xinyuan Wuhuang kept transmitting his voice. He broke out in a cold sweat for Qin Hao. He had actually provoked all these people. Qin Hao still had the guts to enter with the team. No matter how strong he was, it would be very difficult to deal with one of them. If he was unlucky enough to be attacked by a group of them, he wouldn't even last a second. At that time, even if Xinyuan Wuhuang wanted to help, he wouldn't be able to do so. Thank you, senior brother Xinyuan. I will remember your reminder. However, to be honest, Qin Hao, am still worried about a few mere level 5 Yuan Monarchs and 2 level 6 Yuan Monarchs, Tian Boiwang and the Golden Robe Man. Qin Hao transmitted his voice to Xinyuan Wuhuang. His tone was very calm. After the earth-shattering battle in the Imperial Mausoleum's underground cavern, Qin Hao had obtained the tranquil, serene water, and his strength had soared. Chapter 696. Although he knew that Tian Boiwang and the Golden Robe Man were not ordinary level 6 Yuan Monarchs, and both of them had the ability to kill opponents of a higher level than them, he knew that Tian Boiwang and the Golden Robe Man were not ordinary level 6 Yuan Monarchs. Furthermore, for this trip into the Medicine Valley, There was an 80% chance that they were carrying some mysterious trump card given to them by their elders. However, Qin Hao was still not afraid. His opponent had a trump card. Qin Hao also had one. When the time came, it would depend on whose trump card was sharper. Qin Hao swore that he would absolutely shock Tian Boguang. After all, even Qin Hao himself was shocked when he recovered the tranquil netherwater. Sigh, newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Xinyuan Wuhuang sighed silently. He reminded him out of goodwill, but Qin Hao didn't care at all. He was destined to suffer a great loss. Big brother, can you tell me what happened to you in the Imperial Mausoleum? At this time, Xiaogua, who was walking side by side with Qin Hao, turned his head and looked at the other party. The hair on Big Brother's temples had turned white. Although his image seemed to be more free and unrestrained than before, it still made people's hearts ache. As brothers, Xiaogua was especially concerned about Qin Hao. The catacombs? Qin Hao murmured. His eyes seemed to be shrouded in mist, as if he was immersed in his memories. He recalled that day when he held Vivian in his arms, faced the lava spewing out from the ground, and carried the falling sky as the underground world collapsed. Qin Hao's heart was in pain. He could feel Vivian's life force dissipating quickly. The destructive power of the sunset god, arrow, was too shocking. Even though Zhan Wu did not know the sunset mantra, he still managed to inflict a fatal wound on Vivian with the power of the arrow. If Qin Hao had come back in time, Vivian would have been saved. However, he had been reborn 600 years later. Even though Vivian had an emperor stage cultivation, her lifespan had been depleted by the arrow. Just as Qin Hao was grieving, the tranquil water suddenly entered his body and merged with his all-spirits body. It was just like when he had merged with the red lotus fire in the blood soul array in the wasteland. That feeling was truly indescribable. It could only be said that it was so painful that he wished he was dead. It was dozens of times crueler than being skinned alive. So, now that Qin Hao had a third source spirit, he could freely control the nether tranquil water, just like he could control the red lotus flame. Qin Hao's water spirit's power was definitely stronger than any water cultivation technique or water source spirit cultivator on the continent. After all, the ranking of the tranquil nether water was there. After the fusion, he was even more surprised to find that the all-spirit energy in his body automatically flowed into Vivian's body. Furthermore, Qin Hao's all-spirit energy actually preserved Vivian's dissipating soul consciousness and aura. In fact, the tranquil water had always been hidden in Vivian's body. Over the years, Vivian's body had been quietly modified by it. At that moment, when the tranquil water turned into tears and flowed out of Vivian's eyes, she lost the power to maintain her life, causing her divine sense to collapse. Now that Qin Hao had fused the tranquil water with his all-spirit's body, his all-spirit energy could of course have an effect on Vivian. Therefore, Qin Hao did not hesitate to drag on his exhausted state after the battle and instilled most of his all-spirit energy into Vivian. Because the consumption was too serious, it caused his hair to turn white. It was because of Qin Hao's efforts that Vivian was able to temporarily maintain her life. As long as Qin Hao did not die, he could infinitely instill all-spirit energy into her. But in the end, whether she could wake up or not still depended on the will of the heavens and some opportunities. Jin Yuxuan and I found a shocking treasure in the catacombs, but Jin Yuxuan's subordinates rebelled and caused a tragic battle. The power of the battle damaged the ley lines in the eastern suburbs, causing the catacombs to collapse, so I was buried in it. Qin Hao thought for a moment. In order not to let Xiaogua worry too much, he responded with a faint smile. It was better not to let Guadin know about the grudges of his previous life too early. This was also a kind of protection for him. As for that guy, Jin Yuxuan, Qin Hao owed him a favor. Fortunately, Jin Yuxuan did not die, so he brought him out and handed him over to the people of the Jin Chamber of Commerce. There was also that batch of excellent iron military equipment. Qin Hao packed it together with hundreds of millions of crystal stones and put it into the space ring. This batch of things was a priceless treasure to train the king of Western Liang and Daqin. Before Qin Hao came back, he specially ordered Haidafu to continue to excavate the eastern suburbs and dig out the 10,000 years Cold Steel King as well. That piece of thing could not be wasted. I see. Jin Yuxuan's eyesight is too bad. He actually harmed Big Brother because of this. See how I deal with him later. Xiaogua said angrily, as if he regarded the poor Jin Yuxuan as an enemy. In this regard, Qin Hao smiled helplessly. By the way, Guadi, why don't I see Shui Han? Qin Hao was very confused about this. Moreover, there seemed to be a problem with the opening time of the Medicine Valley. I don't know. Xiaogua shook his head. In fact, he had no idea that Yi Shui Han did not come. But at this time, there was a laughter from the Mad Dragon team. The laughter was very mysterious and had a deep meaning. When Qin Hao turned his head to look, he found that it was the strongest, mysterious man in the golden robe. The other party was also looking at him. Qin Hao was a little confused and withdrew his gaze. In fact, even if he condensed the red lotus fiery eye, he could not see the appearance of the mysterious man in the golden robe under the hood. The robe on the other party was not simple. If Qin Hao's guess was correct, the grade of this armor was probably not inferior to a king grade defensive armor. This also gave Qin Hao a little pressure. With Qin Hao's current state, it would be difficult for him to break through a king grade defensive equipment. However, with the addition of the Great Void Holy Sword, you better not provoke me, no side. Qin Hao sneered his heart. No side was 80% sure that he could kill this guy in the golden robe. Juniors, before you step into the Medicine Valley's magic array, please hand over all your jade scrolls, voice transmission talismans, and anything that can be used to communicate with each other. Yao Lao's voice sounded. Everyone had already arrived at the magic array. Handing over all communication tools was the rule for all the teams that entered the Medicine Valley. This was to prevent members of different academies from forming groups and then persecuting others. Although Yao Lao knew that this method wasn't very useful, and that once they entered, everything would still be the same. However, he still had to say some polite words. This graduation ceremony had to be like a graduation ceremony. It was a test of one's ability. As he spoke, there were already many people who took out jade scrolls and voice transmission talismans from their space rings and handed them over with an unhappy expression. Originally, they wanted to take a chance and bring it in. However, Yao Lao's gaze swept across everyone's face. That gaze that contained monstrous pressure made the members who secretly kept their voice transmission talismans fearful. They had no choice but to hand them over. The disciples who handed over their voice transmission tools were the weaker ones. People like Yi Shuifeng, Naturally Liang, and Tian Boguang did not care to bring such things. Because once they entered, they were destined to dominate the lives and deaths of others. Yao Lao nodded and accepted the voice transmission tools. Then, he said in an extremely serious tone, I believe that all of you are very curious. Why did the Medicine Valley open in advance? That's right. Even though I'm the son of the Whitewater Corps commander, when the Long Yuan Divine Sage deployed our team here, I didn't know the reason either. Yi Shuifeng spoke in time, his face full of doubts. If even he did not know, the others would not know either. Chapter 697. The Medicine Valley, as the second forbidden land of Western Liang, is isolated from the rest of the world and contains countless treasures. At the same time, it also has its own unique rules of survival and a king that dictates its fate. Yao Lao's tone was deep as he spoke. Similar to the human empires, the Medicine Valley was a world of magical beasts. Billions of magical beasts had a king that they all worshipped. As the king of the Medicine Valley, it protected its people and its territory from harassment and invasion by humans. Otherwise, how could the Medicine Valley, which contains so many treasures, survive under the siege of the numerous human empires in Western Liang? However, the king that maintained the balance between the Medicine Valley and the outside world was gradually aging and reaching the end of his life. Thus, he met with the Emperor of the Dragon Abyss for the last time in private and requested to release the Medicine Valley in advance. Yao Lao sighed. He did not know if he was feeling sorry for the Beast Emperor of the Medicine Valley or lamenting the fragility of life. No matter if it was a human or a magical beast, no matter how powerful they were, They could not escape the cycle of reincarnation unless they broke through the void and became a god. However, with the fall of the old Beast Emperor, the magical beasts in the Medicine Valley would go through a cruel battle to determine a new emperor through strength. No one knew what policies the new Beast Emperor would apply to the Luo Shui. Perhaps there would be a war, or perhaps there would still be a state of non-aggression. In fact, there was an even worse outcome besides these. In the end, the Medicine Valley would not be able to choose a new Beast Emperor, resulting in chaos and a beast tide attack that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Once the beast tide was triggered, the Luo Shui Empire would be the first to bear the brunt of the magical beast destructive attack. At that time, the beast tide would sweep across the entire western Liang, and everywhere it passed would turn into an endless hell. That was why Yi Longyuan deployed the Whitewater Army, a first-class royal army, to guard the entrance of the Medicine Valley. In Qin Hao's batch of students entering the Medicine Valley was also the last batch when the old Beast Emperor was still in power. Wow, it can't be. There's really a Beast Emperor in the Medicine Valley? That's too scary. All the empires in Western Liang, added up, don't have a single human Emperor-level powerhouse. The Emperor of the Dragon Abyss is only an Emperor-level powerhouse. Haha. The key is that the old Beast Emperor of the Medicine Valley is about to die, and the 40 of us will be the last batch of humans to enter the Medicine Valley. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If I'm lucky enough to catch the eye of a Beast Emperor and inherit its beast spirit's power, Tiske, I, Li Dajiao, will soar to the sky. At this moment, the eyes of the members of the 4 academies shone with golden light. They looked hungry and thirsty. They started to imagine themselves entering the Medicine Valley and inheriting the power of the Beast Emperor, obtaining the supreme inheritance. As everyone knew, once a demonic beast cultivation reached the venerable level, it could transform into a human. Once a Beast Emperor reached the level of a Beast Emperor, it was no different from a human. A Beast Emperor's power could be completely absorbed by a human. Furthermore, due to the Beast Emperor's constitution, it could greatly enhance a human's physical strength. She was simply too beautiful. Just thinking about it made him excited. Even Tian Buowang couldn't help but be filled with longing. If he could take this opportunity to obtain the Beast Emperor's inheritance, killing Qin Hao would be as easy as flipping his hand. Although in reality, he felt that killing Qin Hao now was not a problem at all. But if he caught the Beast Emperor's eye in front of Qin Hao, wouldn't it mean that Tian Buowang's potential was stronger? This would more than sufficiently prove that Tian Buowang was more outstanding than Qin Hao. Unfortunately, none of the people who were dreaming now sensed the danger behind them. You want to obtain the power of an Emperor-level powerhouse? Do you think it will be recognized so easily by the other party? Yao Lao also snorted coldly in his heart. These juniors in front of him had overestimated themselves to the extreme. He then said, entering the Medicine Valley this time, the competition is secondary. The most important thing is to find a way to obtain information about the Medicine Valley and see if there are any signs of the demonic beast causing trouble. Then, come back alive and report to the Emperor of the Dragon Abyss. Those who can bring the information out alive will be handsomely rewarded by the royal family. I wish you all good luck. Yao Lao didn't say anything more. He waved his hand, and a ball of venerable level vitality burst forth on the ground in front of him. The empty ground strangely emitted a faint halo at this moment, and the brightness of the halo was gradually increasing. The teleportation formation had already been activated. Haha, Qin Hao, your journey of death is about to begin. Cherish the few lives in front of you. After entering the Medicine Valley, I will kill you and obtain the Beast Emperor's inheritance. As for you, you're destined to be trash forever. Tian Buowang said ruthlessly and was the first to step into the formation. Qin Hao, I, Yi Ziming, and my cousin Yi Shuifeng are waiting for you in the Medicine Valley. Qin Hao, I, Huang Tianba, and my elder brother, Huang Tiandu, are also waiting for you in the Medicine Valley. Qin Hao, I will naturally avenge Ran Xiaoyao from the 10 Directions Academy. When the time comes, You and your Grand Aura Alliance members will all be killed, crushed, and annihilated by me. I will also do wonderful things to the girl next to you and the pair of sisters. I can't wait, ha ha, ha. In an instant, everyone who had a grudge against Qin Hao stepped into the formation one after another. Each of them felt that they would obtain the Beast Emperor's inheritance and soar into the sky, laughing at the world. As long as they obtained the Beast Emperor's inheritance, they were destined to become Emperor-level experts in the future, stronger than Yi Long Yuan's cultivation. Moreover, they would be in charge of the billions of demonic beasts in the Medicine Valley. At that time, what would the Luo Shui Empire be? What would Yi Long Yuan be? What would the trash of Western Liang be? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it would be enough to conquer the world. Let's wait and see. Qin Hao held Xing, Er's hand, and entered the formation with Xiaohua and the others. The Beast Emperor's inheritance? Was it very powerful? Perhaps. However, Qin Hao didn't care, because there was no inheritance in the world that was more powerful than Denda's inheritance. And Qin Hao was the reincarnation of Dendi. He wasn't even afraid of the strongest human, Zhan Wu, who was known as the Sunset Battle God. Why would he care about a mere beast's inheritance? Are you kidding me? Activate! After everyone had entered the formation, Yao Lao's palms emitted a supreme level purple brilliance. The brilliance poured into the teleportation formation, and then he slowly raised his palms above his head. Immediately, the formation that enveloped the 40 people emitted a more and more intense light. It was so dazzling that they couldn't open their eyes. The figures in the light were pulled and distorted, and finally dissipated. However, before Qin Hao disappeared, he saw the smile on Yao Lao's face. It was as if the other party was saying, "Good luck, kid. Don't let me down." Buzz! A strange force swept over. Qin Hao felt his body become weightless. Then, his vision blurred. When he opened his eyes again, he was already flying high up in the sky. Looking down, it was a boundless green forest with no end in sight. Strange trees that looked like horned dragons were mixed with a wave of the wild aura of primitive ecology rushed towards him. At this moment, Qin Hao realized that Xing Er, who he was holding tightly in his right hand, was no longer by his side. He also began to fall quickly involuntarily. This falling force was very strong. Even though Qin Hao had the body of all spirits, he couldn't control himself. However, the moment he landed, he still defeated this strange force. He did a backflip in the air, and his body rotated 360 degrees. After 2 revolutions, he dispelled this force and landed gracefully on his feet. Bang! His feet created 2 pits in the wet soil. Moreover, a rebounding force came from the Yongquan acupoint on the soles of his feet, causing Qin Hao's head to heat up. He felt as if the blood in his body was boiling. His internal organs seemed to have been dislocated from the impact, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What a powerful force! Qin Hao couldn't help but exclaim. One must know that he was a demigod. He almost couldn't withstand this strange force, and his body fell apart. Then, the others who entered the Medicine Valley would definitely suffer a terrible fall this time. It was very likely that they wouldn't be able to get up in a short period of time and would temporarily lose the ability to move. Enduring the pain in his waist and back, Qin Hao moved his legs and feet, rubbing his muscles and bones. He looked around and breathed in the air of the primitive forest. He felt much more accustomed to it. Chapter 698. That location was between 2 ink-colored giant peaks. There seemed to be a basin between the 2 giant peaks, and there was a unique fragrance of medicinal herbs in the basin. This kind of smell was difficult for ordinary people to detect, but to alchemists who were extremely sensitive to medicinal herbs, it was filled with an irresistible temptation. Only alchemists who had reached the 7th grade and above could sense it. Qin Hao sped over. Although he did not know what kind of strange medicinal herbs he would obtain, the grade was definitely not low. It could even be said to be extremely high. This was Denda's intuition. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking came from afar, whistling above his head. Subconsciously, Qin Hao stopped in his tracks and raised his head to look. He saw a figure in golden clothes floating in the air. It was a disciple of the Wild Dragon Academy. Presumably, like Qin Hao, this person was also pulled by the strange force of the teleportation array and randomly landed in a certain location in the Medicine Valley. And the place where he landed just happened to be close to Qin Hao's. 9th level Heavenly Saint. Qin Hao muttered and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. From the aura that the other party emitted when he was floating in the air, his strength was not much and did not constitute a threat. However, among all the members who entered the Medicine Valley, he was considered to be of average standard. Other than Qin Hao, Yi Shuifeng, Tian Boiwang, and the mysterious golden-robed man. Apart from the inner disciples of the various academies, this guy could be considered the number one person. If he guessed correctly, he should be the chief disciple of the Wild Dragon Heavenly ranking, one level stronger than Huang Tianba. Moreover, the other party was probably hiding some kind of trump card. Obviously, he had also noticed Qin Hao and immediately laughed excitedly. He pointed at Qin Hao below and said, "The heavens have opened their eyes. I, Wu Dalong, never thought that I, Wu Dalong, would be so lucky to meet a fat sheep like you the moment I enter the Medicine Valley. I really picked up a big treasure, huh?" As he spoke, Wu Dalong floated down in an extremely flirtatious manner, blocking Qin Hao's path. He raised his hand and released a wave of vitality, enveloping Qin Hao's surroundings to prevent Qin Hao from escaping. I was mercilessly swept over by the strange force. Fortunately, I fell into a huge pile of demonic beast feces. Otherwise, I might not be able to get up even after lying there for half a day. I'm already lucky enough, but I, Wu Dalong, am even luckier. Right now, hand over your space ring and write a letter of abdication. Let me inherit your Grand Alliance's position and let that Xing of yours be my wife. Then, I want that pair of beautiful sisters to serve me. If you don't, Wu Dalong snorted heavily, his eyes filled with viciousness. If you don't, I'll kill you right now. Wu Dalong spoke to Qin Hao in a completely commanding tone. As soon as he thought of Xing Er's beautiful figure and Nailin Li's pure appearance, he could not help but drool. Of course, he had heard about Qin Hao's power from others. For example, he had defeated Huang Tianba in the Alchemy Master Competition. For example, he had defeated Duan Shuilu, a disciple from the Scarlet Sun Cabinet. So what if that's the case? Although Wu Dalong was not as good as Huang Tianba in alchemy, he was more powerful than him in terms of ability. As for Duan Shuilu, whom Qin Hao had killed, Wu Dalong thought he could kill him too. After all, he was the number one in the Mad Dragon Inner Courtyard. Therefore, he really did not take Qin Hao seriously. He felt that super geniuses like young Master Tian Buguang and Major General Yi were lowering their status by treating Qin Hao as an enemy. "You want to take my spatial ring?" Qin Hao laughed in annoyance. "Yes, hand it over obediently." Wu Dalong waved his hand at Qin Hao. "You want my Xing to be your wife?" "That's right. She's quite powerful, and I've taken a liking to her. Although I'm not as good as her now, I promise that I'll have countless adventures in the Medicine Valley. I, Wu Dalong, will soar to the skies soon. In a few days, I'll have the ability to kill Tian Buguang. So, for Xing to be my wife is the greatest honor in her life." Wu Dalong said arrogantly, "You want my sister Nailin Li to serve you?" As Qin Hao Yin spoke up to this point, Yuan Qi began to circulate around his body. On his tightly clenched fist, wisps of flame began to scatter between his fingers. This Wu Dalong was greedy enough. Not only did he want to steal the treasure, but he also wanted to replace Qin Hao's position and control the Grand Aura Alliance. "You've asked enough questions. Master Lang likes to talk nonsense. Master Lang will give you one last chance. If you don't obey, I'll let you experience what it means to be worse than a dog in life. Or..." Wu Dalong smiled sinisterly and stared at Qin Hao. "Or I won't kill you. After subduing you, I'll hand you over to Master Tian and Major General Shuifeng. In that case, I'll be rewarded handsomely. What do you think? Do you want to be my dog or a corpse?" Ha ha ha. Qin Hao and Tian Buguang were like fire and water. He was also sworn enemies with Yi Shuifeng and nature Liang. Wu Dalong was obviously using these super geniuses to scare Qin Hao. He felt that in order to survive, Qin Hao would definitely give up his wealth, women, brothers, and even his dignity to be his dog. Looks like you're an idiot. In response, Qin Hao shook his head. Then he exerted his aquaflow steps, and his body swept over like a gust of wind. He reached out his hand and grabbed Wu Dalong's neck. A blood-red flame burned in his palm. At this moment, Wu Dalong's face suddenly changed. His eyes flashed with intense shock. But immediately, he calmed down and gritted his teeth. You, Qin Hao, really have some skills. You actually have a flame source spirit. No wonder you could kill Duan Shuailu, who was on the same level as me. But so what? With a hysterical strange cry, Wu Dalong raised his hands and summoned his source spirit. Suddenly, a golden python appeared behind him and opened its bloody mouth to bite Qin Hao. It had to be said that his python was 10 meters long and covered in golden light. It was very attractive. Unfortunately, under Qin Hao's palm, the python's neck was directly broken. Taking advantage of this, Qin Hao's palm climbed onto Wu Dalong's neck. In one move, the opponent was firmly subdued. With your trash skills, you dare to boast in front of me? Die. His palm exerted strength. As if he was pinching an ant, Qin Hao broke Wu Dalong's neck. Then, the rolling red lotus flames burned the corpse to ashes. Until Wu Dalong died, he didn't have time to use any of his trump cards. Even if he used them, they didn't have any effect on Qin Hao, because before he died, he had already begged Qin Hao with his eyes. That helpless and panicked expression seemed to say, "Don't kill me." Dalong was wrong. Ding! A spatial ring fell to the ground in the midst of the burning flames. This was Wu Dalong's treasure. Qin Hao bent down and picked it up. He blew at the ring and blew away the black dust on it. After that, he probed it with his mind and nodded in satisfaction. There are actually 100,000 earth crystals. Looks like the number one person in the inner courtyard of the Wild Dragon Academy is not just for show. Finished speaking, he put away the spatial ring. Qin Hao once again moved towards the two black peaks. Thinking back to his fight with Duan Shuailu 2 months ago, the opponent could at least take 2 moves. But Wu Dalong in front of him couldn't even take 1 move and directly died. Chapter 699. He continued to move towards the 2 giant peaks. After about 15 minutes, Qin Hao arrived at the place. He went deep into the basin and was infinitely close to the location of the medicinal herbs. Looking at the forest that was getting denser and denser, the trees blotted out the sky and the leaves were extremely dense. The surroundings were full of danger signals. Qin Hao began to withdraw his aura. He did so not because he was afraid of being discovered by others. The other contestants who landed in the Medicine Valley were probably still lying on the ground and groaning. They had no combat power to speak of. As for why Wu Dalong was fine, it was because he was very lucky to have fallen into a huge pile of magical beast feces. At this moment, Qin Hao withdrew his aura to avoid being detected by the magical beasts. After all, there were 7 or 8 magical beast auras in front of him. The strength of these magical beast auras was not enough to scare Qin Hao. The key was that he was afraid of attracting more advanced magical beasts, such as the magical beast elders, so it was better to be careful. Following the bushes that were as tall as a person, Qin Hao looked for places with shelter to move forward. He spread his powerful emperor-level mind power and was always vigilant of the surrounding movements. Soon, he was close to his destination. Looking ahead, there were 7 creatures that looked like leopards. They were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They were circling around in a circle, looking very anxious. These leopards were not too big, but they were not small either. They were about the weight of an adult, and each of their auras had reached the saint level. The most powerful of them was a beast king. However, Qin Hao judged that the level of this beast king was not too high. Otherwise, it had already sensed the mind power that he had spread. Inferring from this, its cultivation was below Qin Hao's. It was probably a 1st rank or 2nd rank beast king. Even so, the combat power of 7 leopard-like creatures was enough to terrify ordinary people. In a human country, it would be a piece of cake for them to destroy a city or even some small countries in an instant. The Medicine Valley was indeed a paradise for magical beasts. The power it possessed was not to be underestimated. No wonder Yulon Yuan was so cautious. However, Qin Hao ignored these leopards and looked at something in the middle of them. That thing looked like a stone, but its shape was very special. It also looked like an unearthed bamboo shoot. Its entire body was white and flawless, and it emitted an icy aura. This cold aura was extremely pure. If it was obtained by a martial artist who practiced ice arts or had an ice attribute soul, there was no doubt that it would be a great fortune. Ice bamboo shoot? Qin Hao was startled, but he was immediately overjoyed, as expected of the Medicine Valley. He had just stepped in and already encountered such a wonderful thing. The extreme cold ice bamboo shoot was one of the most difficult herbs to find in the continent's medicinal ingredient catalog. It was the same as the Poria root stamen that Qin Hao had obtained at the bottom of the Broken Dragon Cliff in the wasteland. It was a medicinal ingredient without a grade. Only in the extremely cold world of ice and snow could one find traces of ice stalagmites. Logically speaking, it had no reason to grow in a place like the Medicine Valley. Qin Hao didn't have the time to think about it, but he was determined to obtain the ice bamboo shoots in front of him. He pushed aside the grass and slowly stepped out, walking towards the 7 leopards without any fear. Because the ice bamboo shoot was not fully formed, but it was about to take shape, the leopards were very anxious. Seeing a human suddenly come out and walk over, they immediately bared their teeth and lined up in front of Qin Hao. They kept scratching the ground with their claws and wagging their tails, putting on an offensive posture. "I'll give you a chance to live. Get lost," Qin Hao said coldly. "A group of beasts. I can kill them if I want to." Not to mention this group of beasts, even if it was a human, in this lawless Medicine Valley, the strong were respected. Whoever had the bigger fist had the capital to survive and the capital to dominate. So at this moment, the aura Qin Hao exuded was cold and ruthless. Ayo! In the middle of the line, the smallest but most powerful Beast King was enraged. It let out a warning roar at Qin Hao. The holy beasts were all intelligent and understood Qin Hao's words, but it was impossible for them to give up on this ice bamboo shoot. "Since you don't cherish life and insist on seeking death, don't blame me for being merciless." Qin Hao slowly raised his right hand. 4 of his fingers were closed, and only his index finger was extended. Boom, 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 boom. Then, rays of golden light flew out, and all of them were red lotus lines of fire. These fiery lines were extremely fast, and their penetrative power was quite shocking. There was no chance to dodge at all. Blood spurted into the air, and in the blink of an eye, 6 leopards had their hearts pierced by Qin Hao's red lotus fiery lines. The turbulent impact sent the leopard corpses flying far away. Only the smallest Beast King managed to dodge one of the fire lines, but it couldn't dodge the second one. As a result, its hind leg was broken, and it lay beside the ice stalagmite, letting out an extremely angry and hoarse roar. Although it was angry, there was also incomparable fear in its eyes. "I gave you a chance to live, but you didn't cherish it. It's too late for regrets. If God gives you another chance, forget it, go in peace." Qin Hao did not bother to look at it. He waved his sleeve, and a ball of red lotus fire swept out, burning the severely injured Beast King to ashes. Soon after, a bead glowing with red light floated out from the ashes of the Beast King and floated towards Qin Hao. It was a king-level inner elixir. The inner elixirs of the other 6 holy beasts also flew out of the corpses. Under the control of Qin Hao's emperor-level mind power, they fell into his hand. Holding these inner elixirs, a cold feeling swept over him, freezing his bones and making him shiver uncontrollably. It turned out that these leopards were very precious ice soul leopards. No wonder they were staring at the ice bamboo shoot and would rather die than take a step back. After eating the ice bamboo shoot, this low-level Beast King would probably be able to advance by several small realms. At this moment, Qin Hao was holding the blood-stained inner elixir. The coldness swept over him. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably be turned into an ice corpse in an instant. But in fact, it had no effect on Qin Hao. In front of the red lotus soul fire, the ice soul leopards were completely restrained. This point could be seen completely from how Qin Hao easily killed the 7 leopards. The inner elixirs of 7 ice soul leopards are great nourishment for Wan Qin. Putting the inner elixirs into the space ring, Qin Hao smiled warmly. Then he looked at his palm with some dissatisfaction. His palm was stained with blood. He wiped it on his clothes, then quickly took off his coat and threw it on the ground. Qin Hao then strode toward the ice bamboo shoot on the ground. For Dende, who was obsessed with cleanliness, he did not allow the smell of blood of holy beasts to remain on his body. Furthermore, Qin Hao's left hand even condensed a ball of water vapor that was of a different kind. After filtering his entire body and making sure that there was no trace of the ice soul leopard's blood, he finally relaxed and began to observe the ice bamboo shoots. According to his estimation, the ice bamboo shoot would be completely ripe in 2 hours at most. Qin Hao took advantage of it for nothing. Although Wan Qin is not here, I will accept this ice bamboo shoot on her behalf. Qin Hao sat cross-legged on the ground. Wan Qin's smile appeared in his mind. He killed the ice leopard and snatched the ice bamboo shoot not for himself, but for the girl trapped in Starry Moon School. Chapter 700. Qin Hao thought as he looked at the ice shoot beside him. He was very concerned about it. Suddenly, he frowned and the smile on his face disappeared. He sensed an aura coming from afar and quickly moving toward his position. Qin Hao's Emperor-level mind power covered a wide area. According to the other party's speed, they would soon arrive here and find the ice chute. But the ice chute had not been completely formed. Well, let's take some precautions. Qin Hao stood up and made a gesture with his hands. He operated the red lotus soul fire in his body and took a series of strange steps. His toes kept drawing some strange patterns and symbols around the ice chute. Ordinary people could not understand them at all. They were as mysterious as scribbles. Moreover, the marks made by his toes disappeared in a flash. They were hidden in the soil and were extremely difficult to detect. However, a scorching heat began to rise within a 10-meter radius of the ice stalagmite. Fire gang formation. Qin Hao smiled slightly. Time was short, so he could only make a simple small formation temporarily. Although it was a small formation, the fire gang formation was instilled with the red lotus soul fire. With Qin Hao's current cultivation, even if someone as strong as Yu Wuhan came, he was confident that he could block the opponent's full attack. After nodding, Qin Hao sat down cross-legged next to the ice chute again. He had to admit that the ice chute in front of him contained very pure ice energy. It had probably absorbed the spiritual energy of the earth veins in the surrounding 100 miles. It was purer than any ice chute that Qin Hao had seen in his previous life. It gave him a feeling that it was about to become a spirit. This thing may not be simple. At this moment, Qin Hao showed a dignified expression. At the same time, the aura that was unexpectedly close finally arrived. I was wondering why I kept seeing the corpses of demonic beasts along the way. There was also a huge roar of demonic beasts just now. It turns out that it was all your doing. As the footsteps came to a stop, a man wearing an earthen yellow robe and a face full of spots looked at Qin Hao in shock. Qin Hao's eyes were closed, and he looked like an old monk meditating. The man was stunned for a moment. He then saw the 7 leopard corpses around him. The leopards were not too big, and each of them only had 1 wound. It was obvious that they had been killed in 1 blow. The leopards were probably not very strong. The man immediately curled his lips. He expected that the leopard had been killed by Qin Hao. He curled his lips because Qin Hao could only kill these weak, trash magical beasts. Naturally, Senior Brother Liang had made Qin Hao a big target to kill in the Medicine Valley. He was really giving him face. There is no doubt that the man in the yellow robe was a disciple of Decimo's academy, and his cultivation wasn't bad either. At this moment, he believed that killing Qin Hao did not require Nature Liang to do it himself. It was enough for him to kill Qin Hao. Therefore, he showed a smug look on his face. He felt that his chance to prove himself in front of Nature Liang had come. Then he saw the ice stalagmite next to Qin Hao. In an instant, the man's eyes were wild with golden light. He licked his lips hungrily and couldn't help but point at Qin Hao and exclaim, "Ha ha, the white stalagmite next to you is not bad. It must be a high-grade medicinal herb. You're very lucky that I, Song Majiang, saw it. Let's go." As he spoke, Song Majiang also walked towards Qin Hao and ordered in an incomparably cold voice, "Qin Hao, why don't you hurry up and pick up the stone and obediently give it to me? Otherwise, if you dare to destroy the stalagmite." Because he was afraid that if he got too close, it would arouse Qin Hao's thoughts of destroying the stalagmite. Song Majiang stopped about 10 meters away. "Sigh." Qin Hao shook his head and was a little disappointed that the man did not step into the fire gang formation. Opening his eyes, Qin Hao looked at the man. Except for the pockmarks on his face, there was nothing outstanding about Song Majiang. Moreover, Qin Hao directly saw through his cultivation at a glance. His strength was even weaker than Wu Dalong, who had been killed just now. But he was also at the 6th level of the Heavenly Saint realm. According to this inference, this man was probably the 4th on the heaven list of the Shifeng Academy. After all, he was a little weaker than Ren Xiaoyao, who Qin Hao killed in the alchemy competition, and Ren Xiaoyao was the 3rd on the Shifeng heaven list. "I'm sorry, I found the stalagmite first. In order to get it, I fought with 7 horrible demonic beasts and was injured. It's not appropriate for you to take it just because you want it, isn't it?" Qin Hao said seriously. "Ha. It's ridiculous. Why like is mine? What's appropriate or not? Hurry up and give it to me, and I'll spare your life." Song Majiang said arrogantly with an extremely bad attitude. He deliberately pointed to a place not far behind him with his hand, as if to say, "There are my fellow disciples over there." Of course, Song Majiang did this not because he was afraid of Qin Hao, but because he wanted to tell him, "You can't escape. As long as I call for help, you can't escape." That is to say, you want to rob me? Facing Song Majiang's bad attitude of bullying the weak, Qin Hao was very disgusted, so he was not going to show mercy to this person. "What do you mean by rob? You should say, 'Give it to me.' It's your honor to give the medicinal materials you found to me, Uncle Song. Moreover, if it weren't for the fact that you killed 7 leopards and worked hard, I wouldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Now, I'm giving you a chance to live. Don't you know how to cherish it? Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets." Song Majiang snorted gloomily, giving Qin Hao a final ultimatum. "I found the medicinal materials myself, and I'm giving them to you? Moreover, it's my honor? Ha! You don't need to be so kind, because next, you'll have to bear my anger." While speaking, Qin Hao slowly got up, and a wisp of red lotus vital qi condensed at his fingertips. Well, since you don't want face and force me to make a move, then I'll grant you death and tell you a secret. In fact, I'm stronger than Ren Xiaoyao. I'm only ranked 3rd on the 10 Directions heaven list. Die for me." Song Majiang rose into the air, stretched his hand under his butt, and pulled out a big black pot with a diameter of 3 meters. He raised the black pot, widened his eyes, and smashed it on Qin Hao's head. Moreover, there was a mass of powerful qi that looked good gushing out from the black pot. Song Majiang's overall momentum also rose at this moment. Even when he held the black pot and fell, a trace of ripples appeared in the surrounding space. He was indeed stronger than Ren Xiaoyao, who was killed by Qin Hao. Obviously, it was the credit of the black pot in his hand. "I'll defeat you with one finger." Qin Hao didn't bother to look at him. In fact, he didn't care about the black pot at all. He gently raised his hand. Swoosh! He threw out a wisp of blood-like flame. This flame was like an arrow leaving the bow, making a sound of breaking through the air. A shadow flashed past and bombarded Song Majiang's black pot. Immediately, the torrential strength qi condensed in the black wok was destroyed by the red lotus flame tongue on the spot. Moreover, this strike sent Song Majiang tumbling away like a tortoise's shell, hugging the black pot as he tumbled far away. Along the way, he bumped into things and knocked out a mouthful of teeth. When he finally stopped, his entire body was in tatters, and his face was swollen. Qin Hao, I'm not done with you. Song Majiang endured the soreness in his arms. After spitting out 5 broken teeth, he squatted down into the big black wok. Then, the big black wok started to spin quickly, carrying Song Majiang away at an extremely fast speed. Before leaving, Song Majiang also picked up the clothes that Qin Hao threw on the ground. Because the clothes were stained with the blood of the ice leopard, Qin Hao disliked them, so he threw them on the ground. Looking at the black smoke escaping into the distance in the forest, Qin Hao had to admit that he had miscalculated. Song Majiang's big black pot was actually a flying magic artifact, just like the broom that Qin Hao had snatched. However, letting the other party escape was part of his plan. Woo woo woo. Suddenly, a strange sound rang out around him, like a gust of wind blowing into a gourd, making an echo. You're asking me why I let him go? Qin Hao smiled slightly, as if he was talking to the air. Then he walked back with his hands behind his back and sat down beside the stalagmite. Because I want to cast a long line to catch a big fish. After sitting down, Qin Hao looked meaningfully in the direction that Song Majiang had escaped. This time, there were indeed a few members of the 4 academies who had entered the Medicine Valley who were more difficult to deal with. If he let them get together, it might really bring him a lot of pressure. After all, Tian Buwang alone was not easy to deal with. Not only had his cultivation improved greatly, but Qin Hao guessed that the other party had a very powerful trump card. In fact, he was more afraid that Xiaowa's group would meet Lu Tianliang and Yishui Feng. But it was different now. There was a group of members from the School of 10 Directions in front of him. If Song Majiang lured them over, Qin Hao could kill them all. At that time, these guys would not be an eyesore, and they would also not cause harm to Little Li and Little Zhu. What Qin Hao did not understand was that if Song Majiang wanted to escape, so be it. Why did he hurry to pick up the clothes that he had thrown on the ground? Even risking being killed by Qin Hao, he insisted on taking the clothes away. Woo woo woo. After hearing Qin Hao's explanation, the strange echo sounded again. It was filled with an extremely excited emotion, as if it could not wait to welcome Song Majiang and the others. And at this moment, the astral fire array protecting the stalagmite in the echo inexplicably flickered twice, like a child with intelligence. After a flash, the fire disappeared again, hidden in the soil. Qin Hao smiled warmly. He was especially fond of this mischievous woo-woo sound. This reminded him of that day, when he hugged Vivian in the collapsed underground world, countless magma spewing out. That's what happened. The stalagmite has not fully formed, and Qin Hao has been seriously injured by me. Look, this is his clothes. They are bleeding from my beating. Now, if we rush over, not only can we get the stalagmite, but we can also capture Qin Hao alive and ask senior brother Liang for credit. Somewhere in the Medicine Valley, Song Majiang, who had escaped, carried a black pot on his back, his face bruised and his teeth stuttered. He spoke with an incomparably respectful attitude to a slipper-faced youth in front of him. This slipper-faced youth was also wearing khaki clothes, with a cross embroidered on his chest. If Qin Hao were here, he would definitely recognize this person. This person was a subordinate of Natural Cold, the #1 person in Decimo Academy's inner pavilion, together with another gourd-faced youth. They were known as Natural Cold's 2 Great Vajras. Similarly, he was also a member of Decimo Academy's inner pavilion and possessed an extraordinary king-level cultivation. I searched high and low for something, only to find it without any effort. To think that I, Zhao Shanhe, would meet Qin Hao, such a wonderful thing. Brothers, quickly come with me to capture Qin Hao alive. The slipper-faced youth was overjoyed and could not help but turn around and order the others. Chapter 701. Originally, they were very suspicious of Song Majiang, but after seeing the clothes in his hands, everyone's doubtful eyes immediately became firm, and there was no longer any doubt in their hearts. The white clothes in Song Majiang's hands were what Qin Hao wore when he returned to Qiangbin. Everyone present had a deep impression of it. Sigh, it's a pity that Brother Liang and Old Gao aren't here. Otherwise, I'll definitely let them see my valiant means of capturing Qin Hao alive. Although they're not here, I've already secretly released a signal. After they're done with that matter, they'll follow the signal I released and immediately rush over. The slipper-faced Zhao Shana nodded and led a group of fanatical junior brothers, pouncing towards Qin Hao's position like hungry wolves. Although before entering, they had handed in their secret stash of communication tools. In fact, all of this had long been expected by the higher-ups of Ten Directions Academy. Furthermore, the upper echelons had taught this batch of disciples a mysterious secret communication technique. After they landed in the Medicine Valley, they quickly gathered by relying on the secret method. Naturally, Liang had found a special medicinal herb at the last minute and brought another cabinet disciple to collect it, so he was not with Zhao Shanhe and the others. But judging from the time, Brother Liang should be done with his work soon. When the time came, they would meet up when Qin Hao was killed. In the middle of the basin between the two giant peaks, Qin Hao sat next to the ice bamboo, waiting for it to fully mature. As time passed, the more he observed, the more he felt that this ice bamboo was very special. It matured much later than expected, which was beyond Qin Hao's expectations. Moreover, the ice fragrance that filled the air was getting stronger and stronger, and 3 small ice crystal-like beads had formed on it. The beads were constantly growing bigger and fuller. Suddenly, the fragrance that it emitted became even stronger. Could it be that this ice bamboo is going to bear its own fruit? Qin Hao was extremely surprised by his discovery. He looked carefully and seriously, and kept nodding. It seemed that this was the ice bamboo king that was hard to find in 100 years, and it was going to bear its own ice fruit. Ice bamboo was rare enough, but one that could bear fruit was even rarer and more precious, because its lifespan was actually very short, at most 100 years. Under normal circumstances, finding a 20-year-old ice bamboo shoot was already a great opportunity. But he never thought that he would encounter a 100-year-old ice bamboo shoot king that was about to bear fruit. Even Qin Hao had to admire his luck. Moreover, it had produced 3 ice fruits. Each one would provide a qualitative leap in Wan Qin's cultivation. Not to mention the ice bamboo king itself. Its value was immeasurable. No matter what, he had to protect it until it matured and successfully bore ice fruits. Qin Hao made up his mind. But immediately, unexpected footsteps sounded again. This time, it wasn't just one person, but a large group. Senior Brother Shanhe. Qin Hao is not far ahead. I guarantee with my head that he hasn't run away. He's definitely guarding the stalagmite. Due to Song Mahjong's lack of knowledge, he did not know the value of ice shoots and thought that they were stalagmites. He grabbed Qin Hao's clothes and gritted his teeth in hatred. Controlling the black pot to fly back and forth consumed a lot of his vitality. Flying back and forth, his face was dripping with sweat. So he used Qin Hao's clothes to wipe his face and inadvertently smeared the ice leopard's blood on his face, emitting a fishy smell. This smell was undoubtedly shocking and attractive to the other ice leopards. Yes, he's still here. This time, I'll remember your great merit. Zhao Shanhe walked over with his men and saw Qin Hao in a meditative state, and was pleasantly surprised to see the stalagmite next to Qin Hao. He praised Song Mahjong on the spot, and also sighed that Song Mahjong was too lucky and promised to give him some benefits. Thank you, Senior Brother Shanhe. Thank you. Song Mahjong was incomparably happy. Why is Qin Hao sitting there motionless? Is he asleep? At this time, a strong Sure Fong disciple spoke. He was heavily injured by me, and he's just circulating his cultivation technique to heal his injuries. If it wasn't for Senior Brother Liang mentioning that he wanted to personally eliminate Qin Hao, I would have killed him long ago and seized that stalagmite. Song Mahjong's teeth leaked, and he said proudly without blushing. When the others heard this, they all gave Song Mahjong a thumbs up, praising him for his good character. He got a big advantage, but did not take it for himself. The pride on Song Mahjong's face was even stronger, but in his heart, he was saying, good character? Good your sister. If not for the fact that I couldn't beat him and had my teeth knocked out by Qin Hao, how could I give you such a big advantage? I would have taken the stalagmite for myself. Then next, let me Zhao Shanhe, have a taste of the Qin how that senior brother Liang has chosen. As he spoke, Zhao Shanhe rubbed his fists and was ready to attack. There's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Qin Hao is just a small fry, not worth your time. Let me, Gu Dazhuang, take him down on behalf of senior brother. Without waiting for Zhao Shanhe's reply, the strong disciple let out a powerful roar and rushed out of the group like a wild donkey, throwing a punch at Qin Hao, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. This disciple, named Gu Dazhuang, was ranked second on 10 Directions Academy's Heaven list, stronger than Rin Xiaoyao and Song Majian, since Song Majian could seriously injure Qin Hao. In Gu Dazhuang's view, Qin Hao was completely vulnerable in his hands. At this moment, he did not understand why powerful characters like Senior Brother Liang, Young Master Tian, and Young Master Shui Feng regarded Qin Hao as their biggest opponent. Did Qin Hao deserve this? Gu Dazhuang roared. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. His fist became even more ferocious as he unleashed the power of an 8th Order Heavenly Saint. A ball of orange light wrapped around his fist as if he could punch through a mountain. When the other disciples saw this, they were shocked and exclaimed one after another, "Heavens, this is Senior Brother Dazhuang's Chrysanthemum Fist." Senior Brother Dazhuang once used the Chrysanthemum Fist to kill an expert in the same realm. Does Qin Hao still have a chance to survive this punch? In fact, Zhao Shanhe also anxiously said, Qin Hao is Senior Brother Liang's favorite. If Dazhuang killed him, how could he bear Senior Brother Liang's anger? Don't kill him, cripple him immediately, Zhao Shanhe hurriedly said. However, Gu Dazhuang could no longer stop his fist. The light that enveloped his fist exploded, like a big chrysanthemum blooming under the sun, floating in the air. The petals formed by the light that shot in all directions were like sharp blades flying horizontally, bringing with them an extremely destructive light. Ding, ding, ding. Suddenly, the sound of a rainstorm hitting a piece of iron rang out. When Gu Dazhuang rushed over, a powerful flame shield suddenly rose up and enveloped Qin Hao. Gu Dazhuang's chrysanthemum fist was also blocked by the flame shield, producing dazzling sparks, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound. Gu Dazhuang's fist bombarded the flame shield, and in an instant, an unparalleled rebounding force hit Gu Dazhuang's chest heavily. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were almost shattered, and his chrysanthemum fist, which he thought was incomparably powerful, did not even have the chance to get close to Qin Hao. His whole body was shaken. In midair, suddenly, the sky was filled with scattered pieces of cloth, and Gu Dazhuang's right arm was entangled by a ball of flame, causing him to let out a heart-wrenching scream as he fell under Zhao Shanhe's feet. Break for me. Zhao Shanhe was shocked, but his eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He ruthlessly chopped down with his palm, cutting off Gu Dazhuang's right arm, preventing him from being burned alive. Thank you for your help, Senior Brother Shanhe, Gu Dazhuang said with cold sweat dripping down his forehead as he endured the pain of losing his arm. However, at this moment, the way he looked at Qin Hao had changed. He no longer dared to underestimate Qin Hao, and there was even a hint of fear in his eyes. Following that, the whole place fell silent. Qin Hao, who everyone thought would die with one punch, not only did he not die, but he was also unscathed and severely injured the second on the heaven leaderboard. In an instant, almost everyone's eyes turned to the dumbfounded Song Majian. It was as if they were asking him, "Didn't you say that Qin Hao was weak? Didn't you easily injure him?" However, he didn't even make a move and crippled the second on the heaven leaderboard, Gu Dazhuang. I didn't expect that after Qin Hao was defeated by me, he would work hard and set up a formation in advance. I was careless. Facing the murderous gazes of the crowd, Song Majian was actually afraid, but on the surface, he still spoke without blushing. Yes, it is indeed a powerful formation. At this time, Zhao Shanhe also saw it. Although he said that, he didn't seem to care. This was because he felt that his full strength attack was enough to break Qin Hao's astral flame formation. This kid relied on the fire formation and insidiously crippled my arm. How infuriating! Gu Dazhuang roared hoarsely. He was extremely angry. Dazhuang, don't be angry. Watch me break this formation for you. Then, I'll drag Qin Hao out and throw him under your feet for you to trample on. As he spoke, another disciple of the 10 Directions sect attacked. Although this person was not as burly as Gu Dazhuang, he was taller and looked very strong. His name was Gu Zhiji, and he was Gu Dazhuang's cousin. He was the first on the heaven leaderboard and had the cultivation of a peak heavenly sage. In fact, he was only a hair's breadth away from becoming an Yuan Monarch. Seeing that his cousin had been crippled, Gu Zhiji also charged toward Qin Hao angrily. As he had seen the power of the formation, this time Gu Zhiji didn't charge at it with his body like Gu Dazhuang did. Instead, he pulled out a giant hammer from his pants and roared. He leaped into the air and smashed the top of the astral flame formation with his hammer. It was as if he had the ambition to destroy it with one strike. Take this Grand Sky Hammer. The 2-meter giant hammer in Gu Zhiji's hand was like a black whirlwind. It came crashing down from the sky, creating a circle of ripples in the air. Boom! It came crashing down. No! In fact, Zhao Shan has said in advance. Although he didn't think much of Qin Hao's formation, he could tell that no one below the Monarch stage could break it. Even Gu Zhiji, who was only a hair's breadth away from becoming an Yuan Monarch, couldn't break it. Unfortunately, his warning was still a little too late. Gu Zhiji's hammer was still swung down. As expected, just like the miserable Gu Dazhuang, Gu Zhiji also flew into the sky after a loud boom. Moreover, he flew even higher than his cousin. His clothes exploded, and the awesome Grand Sky Hammer in his hand also melted. Because the rebound was too strong, Gu Zhiji's arms exploded in the air before he could fall. Then, he let out a hoarse scream and fell at Zhao Shan's feet. At this moment, the entire place was silent again. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 702. Gu Dazhuang, 8th level Heavenly Saint, ranked 2nd on the Inner Courtyard Heaven roll, lost an arm. Gu Zhiji, Peak Heavenly Saint, ranked 1st on the Inner Courtyard Heaven roll, lost both arms. Qin Hao sat in the array unscathed, not even bothering to look at the disciples of the Shifang sect. He completely ignored everyone. This scene couldn't help but cause the disciples of the 10 Directions to feel extremely oppressed in their hearts, and they were furious to the extreme as well. He's too arrogant. There are so many of us surrounding him, but he's treating us like we don't exist. He doesn't even show any sense of danger. I've seen countless people who act tough, but this is the first time I've seen someone like Qin Hao who can act tough to the peak. Qin Hao's acting tough skills are even better than our brother Liang's. If this can be tolerated, what can't? I want to kill him 1,000 times. A large group of people were so angry that their faces turned ashen. They clenched their fists, but they couldn't do anything when they saw the astral flame array protecting Qin Hao. They were so angry that they wanted to die. At this moment, Qin Hao finally gave him a response. He lazily opened his eyes and said, "A bunch of good-for-nothings." Boom. At this moment, everyone felt as though their heads were about to explode. Good, very good. You're very arrogant. I wonder if you can still maintain your arrogance after I, Zhao Shanha, break through your bullsh *T rotting flame array. Zhao Shan's patience had reached its limit, and he decided to take action personally. After he finished speaking, a raging red yuan qi suddenly exploded, crazily sweeping in all directions. Accompanying it was Zhao Shan's qi that was rising steadily. 1-star Yuan Monarch, 2-star Yuan Monarch, 3-star Yuan Monarch, 4-star Yuan Monarch, intermediate 4-star Yuan Monarch. That terrifying aura forced the disciples of the Shifang sect to retreat continuously. Everyone's faces were filled with fear. At the same time, they started to mourn for Qin Hao's fate. Since senior brother Zhao was personally taking action, Qin Hao would definitely die if he hid in the array. Of course, before he died, he would have to be beaten up by everyone. Only intermediate 4-star Yuan Monarch? You're still a good-for-nothing. However, Qin Hao's reply almost made Zhao Shana vomit blood. One had to admit that Zhao Shana's cultivation was not bad. At least among the disciples of the four great academies, he was definitely one of the best. However, he was still not qualified to break the astral flame formation. Only Yi Wuhan, Tian Boguang, Li Tianliang, and Yi Shuifeng could break Qin Hao's temporary miniature array. That's right, the astral flame formation was just a small formation that Qin Hao had set up at the last minute. However, it would require Tian Boguang and the others to go all out. As for the first-rate genius Zhao Shanhe, sorry, he was still far from being a super genius. You still dare to be stubborn? You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. You haven't experienced my strength, so you don't know how terrifying I am. As for those who have felt my power before, they are all dead. Break for me. Zhao Shanhe was infuriated. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and gathered a Yuan King-level red ball of light between his palms. The ball of light was filled with Yuan Qi and contained immense power. Then, he pushed it forward fiercely, and the light ball instantly sped in the direction of the flame astral formation, setting off a sandstorm along the way. Boom! It landed steadily, causing the ground beneath everyone's feet to tremble. However, in the next moment, Zhao Shanhe's expression changed drastically. Not only did his attack fail to destroy the formation as he had hoped, the shock waves from the explosion swept over and struck him in the chest. Just like Gu Dazhuang and Gu Zhuji, he was sent flying involuntarily. Although he didn't fly as high as the two of them, after landing on the ground, he made a dozen deep footprints on the ground before he could regain his footing. This scene put Zhao Shanhe in a difficult position, and he had lost a lot of face. I already said that you were a good-for-nothing, but you didn't believe me. Sigh. Qin Hao sighed in the middle of the formation. F***CK. Zhao Shanhe immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and felt like crying. He gritted his teeth and said, I don't believe this. Wait until I take out my divine soldier and destroy the formation in one blow. Then I will drag you out and peel off your tender skin. Watch out for my spear. After taking 2 deep breaths to calm himself down, Zhao Shanhe's space ring flashed and a green spear appeared in his hand. At this moment, his aura surged and the dispirited look on his face disappeared. He became extremely confident. Then, he poured all his strength into this spear and charged towards the flame astral formation. Midway, a small green whirlwind formed on the green spear. It was obviously the same as Wu Lida's sky extinguishing spear and had the power of inscriptions. However, compared to the sky extinguishing spear, Zhao Shanhe's spear was many times weaker. After all, the inscriptions on the sky extinguishing spear were engraved by Qin Hao in his previous life. Although it was weaker than the sky extinguishing spear, in the eyes of the disciples, Zhao Shanhe's attack caused them to feel a wave of admiration. However, it was a pity that after the spear pierced the formation, Zhao Shanhe immediately repeated the same mistake. And at this moment, he flew up in a way that was even sharper than everyone else's. His body was spinning in the air, and his hair was King bald. Even his skin was about to fall off. When the green spear in his hand came into contact with the array, it completely melted on the spot. Finally, with a whoosh, the incomparably mighty Zhao Shanhe fell in front of his junior brothers. His face was covered in blood, and his bald scalp had countless cracks. It was a tragic sight. F***CK, what's going on? The disciples of the 10 sects who were clapping their hands were dumbfounded. The scene was silent for a long time. Finally, a string of words appeared in everyone's mind. Senior apprentice brother Zhao, you've lost. A dignified inner pavilion disciple with an incomparably awesome weapon couldn't even make a single hole in the array formation laid down by Qin Hao. On the other hand, Zhao Shanhe was severely injured and his weapon was destroyed. Qin Hao, I swear I'll fight you to the death. On the ground, Zhao Shanhe trembled as he crawled up. His face was covered in blood as he roared like a wild beast. His spear was a high-grade saint artifact that had drunk the blood of countless geniuses. Today, it was destroyed by Qin Hao's little formation. There are many people who swear I'll fight you to the death. Tian Boguang, Yi Shuifeng, including your eldest senior brother, All of them swear I'll fight you to the death. And you? Who do you think you are? That piece of junk you were holding just now you call a spear? In response, Qin Hao curled his lips in disdain. Asterisk blurg, asterisk thin. Zhao Shana spat out another mouthful of blood. Ha! At this time, a childlike laughter suddenly sounded. It was very crisp and very pleasant to the ears. However, there were no children present at all. It made everyone's hair stand on end. Everyone stared at each other, thinking they were hallucinating. Qin Hao, I admit that your formation is very powerful. I guess you spent a lot of effort on it, right? And you must have used very precious materials. To be honest, I really can't break it. But so what? It can't exist forever. When the energy maintaining it disappears, you'll definitely die. Chapter 703. Of course, he didn't really intend to let Qin Hao go. He just wanted to lure him out and kill him cruelly. Qin, our senior brother Zhao, is magnanimous. Why don't you come out with the stalagmite like a grandson? This is your last chance at survival. You should cherish it. You're just relying on the formation. In reality, you're no match for our senior brother Zhao. If you continue to stubbornly resist, once the formation's energy disappears, you'll be dead for sure. What are you standing there for? Can't you hear all these masters talking to you? The junior brothers behind Zhao Shanha all roared at him and spat at Qin Hao. Song Majiang especially spat at him the most. First, to protect Zhao Shanha's dignity. Second, they were afraid he'd be beaten up by the others. After all, he'd crippled the Gu brothers and even destroyed Zhao Shanha's spear. You're not only a bunch of good-for-nothings, you're also a bunch of idiots. Qin Hao shook his head nonchalantly. Then, according to the other party's orders, he stood up and prepared to step out. Of course, he wasn't afraid of Zhao Shanha's threats. He just couldn't be bothered to waste time with these idiots. Qin Hao had thought that they'd come naturally, but the result was disappointing. In that case, he might as well send these 8 disciples of the Ten Directions sect to hell. Seeing Qin Hao preparing to step out, Zhao Shanha and the others were ecstatic. They thought to themselves that Qin Hao was a stupid idiot. He was so gullible that he'd stepped out of his own accord. Without the protection of the formation, Zhao Shanha wouldn't be afraid of Qin Hao anymore. Moreover, he could cripple Qin Hao in one blow. Thus, he secretly increased his strength. But suddenly, 2 ear-piercing sounds came from the sky. They were as swift and fierce as arrows. It was clear that the newcomers were very fast. It was also at this moment that Qin Hao, who was just about to step out of the formation, shrank back. When Zhao Shanha saw this, he was about to go crazy. In fact, he was so angry that he raised his head and cursed. Which bastard has nothing better to do than come to your grandpa Zhao's house and ruin my beautiful matter? Along with Zhao Shanha's cursing, the other disciples also started cursing at the same time. Curses such as Motherf asterisk Ker and Motherf asterisk Ker poured out like a flood. Accompanied by the curses that filled the sky, whoosh, whoosh, 2 figures descended from the sky and stood proudly in front of them. This time, Zhao Shanha was dumbfounded, because the people standing in front of him were his eldest senior brother, Natural Liang, and another inner court disciple, Old Gao. Brother Liang? Why are you here? Zhao Shanha's old face turned red, and 3 black lines appeared on his forehead. His expression was abnormally awkward, and a drop of cold sweat dripped down from his bald forehead. You're the one who released the signal, and you're asking me why I'm here? Regarding this, he naturally glared coldly and said, Hey, old Zhao, I haven't seen you for half a day, and you've changed into a fashionable hairstyle? At this time, another inner court disciple, a young man with a gourd-like face, named Gao Yanniai, looked at Zhao Shanha curiously and kept nodding. His face was full of praise. Good, it's too fashionable. This hairstyle is extremely mighty, and the scalp is cracked. It's very domineering, and I'm very envious. Envious your sister? Zhao Shanha was angry on the spot. His scalp was cracked by Qin Hao's formation. Fashionable? Envious? You just have to do a formation, and you'll have such a fashionable hairstyle immediately. Cut the crap. Were you cursing me just now? At this time, Natural Yang put his hand behind his back and said with a straight face, his eyes gloomy. His clothes were messy, and there was a trace of blood on his chest. His face was flushed, and it was obvious that he had been through a fight. The scale of the fight seemed to be not small. After all, Natural Yang's face was full of sweat. "Come on, Brother Liang, take a rest. Wipe your face first." Seeing this, Song Mahjong also helped Natural Liang wipe his face. The thing he used to wipe his face was Qin Hao's white clothes, which were stained with the blood of the ice leopard. Natural Liang subconsciously took the clothes that Song Mahjong handed over, and then luckily smeared the blood of the ice leopard on his face. He took 2 deep breaths to relieve the fatigue caused by the fight just now, but his eyes never left Zhao Shana's face. After all, when he flew over just now, he heard Zhao Shana's cursing. It was related to the reputation of Natural Liang's parents. How could he be forgiven? Well, Brother Liang, in fact, it's not what you think. It's like this. Then, Zhao Shana's hand pointed in the direction of Qin Hao and briefly explained the situation, including the stalagmite and the formation. Actually, the person I'm cursing is Qin Hao. How could it be Brother Liang? Zhao Shana said again with a righteous look. Yes, yes, yes. The person we're cursing is Qin Hao. In this regard, the other disciples nodded in agreement. Wonderful. Natural Yang's eyes lit up. After listening, he looked in the direction Zhao Shanhe was pointing and saw Qin Hao standing in the formation. Coincidentally, at this moment, Qin Hao was smiling warmly at Natural Liang. In fact, when Natural Liang flew over, Qin Hao had already sensed him. He sensed that the other party's aura was not ordinary, so he deliberately did not step out of the formation. Because, next, Qin Hao wanted to test Natural Liang's strength and see if he could destroy the Flame Gang formation with a full blow like he had guessed. After all, Qin Hao had not fought with the senior disciples of the 4 academies. He could only judge the other party's cultivation through Natural Yang's attacks. Therefore, he could also guess the strength of Tian Boguang and Yi Shuifeng from Natural Yang. At this moment, Natural Yang was overjoyed when he saw Qin Hao. After all, the top disciples of the 4 academies all regarded Qin Hao as their biggest prey. Now that the biggest prey was in front of him, he was really lucky. If Natural Yang defeated Qin Hao, he would no doubt have the right to brag in front of Tian Boguang. Oh, there's such a strange thing? Then let me, Gaoya, test Qin Hao's awesome formation. As he spoke, the gourd-faced Gaoya decided to attack. If he could break the formation that Zhao Shanhe could not, it would prove that he was stronger than Zhao Shanhe. At this moment, Gaoya had the opportunity to establish himself as the second disciple of the inner pavilion. How could he let it go? He licked his lips excitedly, reached his hand behind his butt, and pulled out a huge snow-white scythe. With a strange cry, he raised the scythe and slashed at Qin Hao, creating a whistling sound along the way. Qin Hao, let's see your Master Gao's method of breaking the formation. Gaoya's aura erupted. Like Zhao Shanhe, he was a 4-star intermediate king. He swung the giant sickle in his hand, and a 200-foot-long crescent moon light burst forth. The crescent moon light was like a giant arm, slapping diagonally at Qin Hao's astral flame formation. Along the way, the crescent moon light increased again, becoming 500 feet long. It was simply shocking. As expected of Senior Brother Gao, he's too awesome. I reckon that Senior Brother Gao can break the formation without Brother Liang's help. Not only did they break the formation, even Qin Hao, who is inside, will most likely not survive. What followed was, of course, the endless flattery of the disciples of the 10 academies. Boom! Chapter 704. This attack, once again, shocked everyone. Even if Gao Yan used all his strength, he could not shake the formation at all. Instead, he was almost turned into a corpse. Now, just like Zhao Shanhe, even his weapon was destroyed. Natural Cold looked down at his feet. Gao Yan had suffered too much from the recoil and had become unrecognizable. His robe was torn apart, and 2 thick arms climbed up the spider web. Blood flowed through the cracks of the spiderweb. It was a tragic sight. Gao Yan's eyes were rolled back, and his mouth was crooked. It was obvious that he was severely injured. This formation is not ordinary, Natural Cold muttered. For the first time, he looked at Qin Hao with a serious gaze. When Zhao Shanha heard this, he raised his nose. He had regained his dignity and confidence from Gao Yan's miserable appearance. In comparison, Gao Yan's injuries were worse than his, which meant that he was not as good as him. When the other disciples heard Natural Cold speak in such a serious tone, they were shocked. Brother Liang rarely praised his opponents. Usually, when he attacked, his opponents would become corpses. At this moment, no one dared to look down on Qin Hao. On the other hand, the boastful Song Majiang wanted to stuff his head into his pants in shame. He was already thinking about how to bear the anger of his fellow disciples. Although this formation is not ordinary, in front of me, Natural Cold, it is nothing. I can easily break it in one move. After the serious tone, Natural Cold's next words made everyone feel relieved. They looked at Natural Cold with burning eyes and worship. Eldest senior brother was going to personally make a move. As long as eldest senior brother made a move, there was no formation in the world that could not be broken. This was the blind confidence of the 10 Directions Academy disciples in Natural Cold. Easily break it in one move? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Let me give you a piece of advice. Show me some real ability to break the formation. Otherwise, you will just embarrass yourself later. Qin Hao calmly stood in the middle of the formation and gave the other party a friendly reminder. But when this reminder fell in Natural Cold's ears, it was an insult. Qin Hao was clearly looking down on him. Arrogant. Naturally, Liang was a little angry. His cold eyes stared at Qin Hao. His right hand slowly stretched out to the side. His 5 fingers moved slightly. Although the movement was small, it stirred the air and made a cracking sound. Suddenly, he closed his 5 fingers and clenched them into a fist. With a loud roar, he swung his fist forward. 10 Directions, thoughtless divine fist. Boom! A surging fist light suddenly rushed out from his fist, like a wild horse that had escaped its reins, madly rushing toward Qin Hao, who was inside the astral flame formation. Level 6 mid-level Yuan Monarch. When the other party attacked, Qin Hao also judged the other party's cultivation at the same time. This cultivation made Qin Hao nod slightly. At least he was worthy of the title of 10 Directions Academy's first senior brother. He was indeed much stronger than Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yanyi. After all, Natural Cold wasn't an ordinary person. He should have a special constitution and essence soul. Furthermore, his fist technique seemed to contain a strange power. It should be a set of precious cultivation techniques in 10 Directions Academy. The grade of his cultivation technique was also at the peak of the Earth grade. It was only a little bit away from breaking through to the Heaven grade. Therefore, Natural Cold had a special essence soul and a powerful cultivation technique. His true strength could definitely kill a level 8 Yuan Monarch instantly. He could even protect himself against a level 9 Yuan Monarch. This was the terrifying aspect of the top disciples of the 4 major academies. They were worthy of the title of genius. Unfortunately, Natural Cold's strength wasn't much stronger than Yu Wuhan's after he unleashed his full strength. In comparison, he was much weaker than Yi Shuifeng and Tian Boguang. This was Qin Hao's intuition. In fact, Qin Hao's analysis was right. Although Natural Cold's current state wasn't as strong as Tian Boguang's, he was qualified to fight against Yi Wuhan and Yi Shuifeng. The intentionless divine fist that he executed required him to abandon some distracting thoughts, including his own emotions. He had to mobilize all the essence energy in his body to cause destruction. It was very difficult to cultivate and not something an ordinary person could do. Just the requirement of completely discarding distracting thoughts was enough to make 80% of people shrink back. Even emotional factors and one's own parents had to be abandoned. People who could do this were probably 1 in a million. At least, Qin Hao couldn't do it. However, Natural Cold had done it. This was enough to show how ruthless he was. If he was forced into a corner, he would probably kill his own father without batting an eyelid. This was the reason why Yishui Feng had been afraid of Natural Cold. After Natural Cold devoted himself to the battle, he was completely a cold-blooded demon. Oh my God, senior brother is actually using the intentionless divine fist. I have no regrets in life after seeing this kind of fist technique again. Speaking of this fist technique, in the entire academy, only the principal and vice principal have successfully cultivated it. However, they have only cultivated it to the perfect state of forgetting themselves. They have never been able to throw away the last remaining trace of love in their hearts. As for Brother Liang, he is much more awesome. He has completely crossed the gap that the principal and vice principal could not cross. He doesn't care about family and love anymore. Therefore, he created the highest peak of the intentionless divine fist and reached an unprecedented extreme state. Using the intentionless divine fist to break Qin Hao's formation, Qin Hao could be proud of his life. What do you mean? Are you looking down on senior brother's intentionless divine fist? Qin Hao will definitely disappear together with the formation. Yes. In the field, the disciples of the Shifeng Academy were also endlessly expressing their opinions, praising Natural Cold's intentionless divine fist to the extreme. When they looked at Qin Hao again, it was as if they were looking at a dead man. So it's the intentionless divine fist? No wonder I felt that it was a strange power, but this power is really dirty and despicable. Qin Hao stood there with a fearless expression and even spat on the ground. In order to obtain the purest power, he could even abandon his parents, brothers, and loved ones. How bad was the moral character of a person who cultivated the intentionless divine fist? This fist technique should not exist in this world at all. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The surging intentionless divine fist collided with the astral flame formation. At this moment, the ground rumbled and a majestic cloud of smoke whistled into the sky, like a spectacular tornado, rising straight up to a height of 100 meters. Under this incomparably pure and emotionless fist technique, the astral flame formation had a reaction for the first time. However, it did not directly break. Instead, it was shaken by the power of the fist technique, creating a large ripple, and even the formation barrier felt like it was being twisted. But then, accompanied by a burst of childlike angry cries, the astral flame formation flared up, and an even more majestic fire energy was released. This fire energy forcefully swept up the remaining power of Natural Cold's intentionless divine fist and returned to the original path, and heavily bombarded Natural Cold's body. Bang! After receiving this blow, Natural Cold's chest tightened, and a trace of blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth, and he took 3 steps back. Although it was only 3 steps after he stabilized himself, his face became extremely distorted, and it was frightening. Not only did he not break Qin Hao's astral flame formation, but he was also hit by his own fist technique, and he even took 3 steps back in front of Qin Hao. Shame! Chapter 705. Is this the power that you easily created? You're really lousy. Qin Hao smiled faintly, his smile filled with contempt. It was similar to what he had expected, unless Natural Cold used some special skills. Otherwise, he would not be able to break the astral flame array. Based on this, he could infer that his cultivation level was definitely higher than this top disciple of the Shifeng Academy. In terms of external cultivation level, Qin Hao was still at a disadvantage. However, Natural Cold's internal cultivation level was not a problem at all. At this thought, Qin Hao felt more confident. The goal of the astral flame array had been achieved. Now it was his turn to show off his prowess. Qin Hao! Natural Cold clenched his fists and squeezed out the words through his teeth. His facial features were distorted, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. He exuded an extremely cold and terrifying aura. In fact, he had already sensed that the astral flame array was not ordinary, so he had used his specialty, the thoughtless divine fist. In his opinion, the thoughtless divine fist was enough to break this array. However, in the end, he had still underestimated Qin Hao's ability. Especially at this moment, the other disciples of the Shi Fang Academy were looking at natural cold awkwardly. Their doubtful gazes, yet they did not dare to speak, made natural cold feel even more humiliated. You are indeed the person who defeated Tian Boguang. I admit that I have underestimated you. Next, I will treat you as a real opponent and take you seriously. The next time I attack, I will definitely break this array. Natural Cold's face no longer had a frivolous smile. Instead, he became unprecedentedly solemn. He used his actions to tell everyone that Qin Hao was worthy of his full effort. That's right. Brother Liang will definitely break Qin Hao's array next. In fact, Brother Liang and I have just finished a fierce battle with a group of demonic beasts and consumed a lot of essence energy. Otherwise, the thoughtless divine fist would have already destroyed Qin Hao's array. Gao Yanniai got up from the ground to help Natural Cold maintain his dignity. It would not be good if others lost confidence in eldest senior brother. In fact, he was right. Natural Cold had indeed just fought with a level 8 Beast King and successfully killed it. Demonic beasts had strong physiques and were slightly stronger than humans of the same cultivation level. Due to carelessness, Natural Cold had suffered minor injuries. Even so, killing a level 8 Beast King with his level 6 Yuan Monarch cultivation was already a glorious achievement. Look, everyone, this is the treasure that Brother Liang and I took from the place guarded by the Beast King. As he spoke, Galya's interspatial ring flashed, and a crystal-clear fruit appeared in his hand. He looked at the fruit in his palm and was extremely excited. This fruit looked a little like a coconut. The flesh was very plump and looked very fresh. There were countless sparkling dewdrops on the skin. Under the sunlight, it looked fresh and delicious. It was very tempting. Heavens, this is the morning sun 100 dew fruit. Zhao Shanhe, who was standing at the side, revealed an extremely shocked expression. The morning sun 100 dew fruit was a tier 7 king medicine. It grew on the cliff and faced the sun. It absorbed the essence of the sun and the spiritual energy of the moon, tempering it through the wind and frost of the 4 seasons. Its living environment was extremely harsh. If it didn't see sunlight for a day, it would immediately rot. The fruit in Gao Yanniai's hand was not small. It was even larger than a fist, and it immediately aroused the envy of many. Everyone licked their lips, wanting nothing more than to snatch it away. After all, it was a 7th grade king medicine in front of them. If someone below the sage level ate it, it was very likely that they would enter the king level. If a king level martial artist ate it, they could break through their own bottleneck and obtain a significant improvement. It was extremely precious. If they took out a 7th grade medicine valley, it would be enough to prove their ability and they could graduate. At this moment, everyone's eyes were burning with passion. The morning sun 100 dew fruit, Qin Hao was also moved. His eyes were filled with joy. As expected of the medicine valley, he was already lucky to find a 100-year-old ice bamboo shoot after entering. Naturally, Liang's luck was not worse than his. He had actually snatched such a fruit under the protection of the Beast King. Then, he congratulated naturally Liang. Then, Qin Hao also congratulated himself, because next, the fist-sized morning sun 100 dew fruit in Gao Yanniai's hand would be in his pocket. Mine is still considered small. Brother Liang's is even bigger. It's incomparably huge. Brother Liang, quickly take it out and show it to everyone. Gao Yanniai enjoyed the envious gazes of his junior brothers and was ready to show off. All right, I'll take it out and show it to everyone. Especially you, Qin Hao. Open your F***king eyes and look carefully. Be prepared to praise me and congratulate me on my luck. Then, you can only look at it and not get it. Are you jealous? Ha ha. Naturally, Liang's space ring flashed as he took out his 100 dew fruit. His 100 dew fruit needed to be held in both hands. It was as big as a basketball when held in his arms. The water droplets on it were even more translucent, and the flesh looked even more tender and delicious. The surrounding disciples couldn't help but open their mouths wide as they drooled. They couldn't help but want to rush up and take a bite. Even licking the skin would be fine. If they licked the skin, they might be able to level up. When naturally Liang's 100 dew fruit appeared, it immediately overshadowed Gao Yanniai's 100 dew fruit. After all, Gao Yanniai's 100 dew fruit was too small. Sigh. It's a pity that the best time to harvest the 100 dew fruit is at sunrise. In order to prevent others from snatching it, we can't care about the best time. Otherwise, it'll taste even better. Naturally, Liang deliberately stuck out his tongue in front of Qin Hao and rolled it around the corner of his mouth. Then, under the incomparably hungry gazes of the crowd, he put the basketball-sized 100 dew fruit back into his space ring. Qin Hao, I'll ask you, are you envious? I'll ask you, are you impressed? I'll ask you, are you impressed? With that, naturally Liang pointed at Qin Hao and said proudly. At this moment, the disciples of Decimo Academy immediately regained their confidence. Their noses were raised high in the sky, as if naturally Liang would share the 100 dew fruit with them. Of course, that was absolutely impossible. Although they couldn't eat the flesh, it was still a great honor for the disciples of Decimo Academy to be able to pick up a piece of the fruit skin. Qin Hao, on the other hand, didn't even have the chance to eat the skin, because Qin Hao was going to die soon. Your 100 dew fruit isn't bad, but I'm not envious at all because the one next to me is the 100-year ice bamboo shoot king, and it's already borne 3 fruits. Oh, right? Do you know what an ice bamboo shoot king is? Qin Hao smiled and shifted his body, revealing the half-meter-tall stalagmite behind him. At this moment, sunlight shone through the gaps between the branches and scattered on the stalagmite, making it appear incomparably sacred. Rumble. Naturally, Liang felt like his head was about to explode. His eyes widened to the size of a cow's egg, and his mouth opened so wide that a steamed bun could be stuffed in. Perhaps others didn't know, but as the eldest senior brother of the Decimo Academy, how could he not know the value of a 100-year ice bamboo shoot king? Moreover, the environment in which the ice bamboo shoots grew was even harsher than that of the 100 dew fruit. They could only be found in the world of ice and snow in extremely cold places. Now that they were growing in the forest, it was really, furthermore, it actually bore fruits. There were a total of 3 fruits. At this moment, even naturally Liang couldn't help but admire Qin Hao's luck. It really was his ancestors. No wonder Qin Hao wasn't envious or jealous of him. It turned out that he was protecting a 100-year ice bamboo shoot king. But it was a pity that naturally Liang had to take the ice bamboo shoot king. Qin Hao, I'll tell you another secret. In fact, my soul is a soul of black ice. Now you should know how important this ice bamboo shoot is to me, right? Even if I have to risk my life, I'll take it, so you could go die. Chapter 706. Accurately speaking, what fell were not snowflakes, but ice crystals, black ice crystals. Even though these black ice crystals had yet to fall, they emitted a sharp aura from afar, causing one's face to feel a slight pain. After it fell, although it seemed light, it brought with it the sound of breaking through the air. Poochie poochie, it cut through countless thick branches and scattered a large amount of leaves in the air. From this, it could be seen that the black ice crystals were very strong and sharp. It was Natural Cold's source spirit. At this moment, a black cold aura appeared behind Natural Cold, making him look like a demon. The black ice crystals falling from the sky became more and more as sharp as knives. When the 10 Directions Academy disciples saw this, they were so scared that they covered their heads and dodged, using their fastest speed to avoid the falling ice crystals. Everyone knew that Natural Cold was going to be serious. It's actually the black ice source spirit. Qin Hao slightly knit his brows. He was a little surprised. The black ice source spirit belonged to a small branch of the ice source spirit. Although it was a branch, it was ranked very high, reaching the top 20 of the ice source spirit. Not only was it sharp and strong, it was also very destructive, and it was hard for normal flames to melt. In his previous life, Qin Hao had fought with a black ice source spirit and successfully killed that martial artist, so he had a deep understanding of this. He never thought that Natural Cold from the small western Liang realm would have this kind of strange source spirit. If he was given time to grow, he would have quite a few achievements. Unfortunately, he should not have made him an enemy. Even if the black ice source spirit was strong, it would be hard for it to compete with the world's most violent red lotus flame. It could be said that Qin Hao's red lotus flame was simply the nemesis of the black ice source spirit. Surprised, right? But you should feel even more regret angering me. Originally, I wanted to use this move to fight against Tian Boguang. It was a move that I comprehended a few days ago, but now I'm giving it to you. Qin Hao, you should be proud. Black Diamond Star Fist. With a loud roar, the black cold aura behind natural cold began to churn. Then it drilled into his back and entered his body. At this moment, his body underwent a large change. A layer of crystal that looked like black scales covered Natural Liang's entire body. It looked like a thick and heavy Demon King's armor. It looked extremely majestic. It was completely conceivable that after his soul was absorbed into his body, his resistance to attacks would at least double. Then, Naturally Liang also threw a punch forward. Moreover, it was the same thoughtless divine fist that he had just used. But the power of the thoughtless divine fist this time was God knows how many times stronger than before. Boom! He punched out, setting off a fierce fist wind. The fist wind was mixed with dense black ice crystals. The ice crystals were like black diamonds, shooting toward Qin Haowu, who was inside the astral flame formation on the opposite side. Every black diamond emitted an extremely ear-piercing sound. They swept through the area ferociously as if they had swallowed up the day, plunging the entire world into darkness. If it were anyone else, they would immediately lose all their will to fight and could only kneel at Natural Yang's feet, trembling. However, Qin Hao did not care at all. When a large pile of black ice attacked, there was a buzzing sound. The flames on the astral flame formation burned brightly. The tongues of flames rolled wildly, and the childlike voice sounded again. But this time, the voice was mixed with anger, as if it knew that it could not block the enemy's attack. As expected, the black ice that filled the sky was like locusts crawling on the fire formation. The sharp cold qi continued to devour the flames. In an instant, the astral flame formation was buried. Then, with a crisp sound, the light film that enveloped Qin Hao's head shattered. Ah, woo woo woo. The childlike voice protested with great dissatisfaction, as if it was begging Qin Hao to let it appear and fight with natural cold. It was very dissatisfied in its heart. After all, the fire yuan qi that was used to maintain the astral flame formation was temporarily instilled by Qin Hao. The amount was very small. It's not time for you to appear yet. When the time is right, I will let you play to your heart's content. Qin Hao smiled and comforted the childlike voice with a few words, as if he was talking to his own child, full of doting. With that, Qin Hao took the initiative to walk out of the annihilated formation and toward natural cold. Aha! Under my full strength, you can't even withstand a single blow. Qin Hao! Oh, Qin Hao, you are dead this time. Natural cold was in ecstasy. He did not sense that there seemed to be someone else besides Qin Hao. He grinned hideously and rubbed his fists, walking step by step toward Qin Hao. No, to be precise, he was walking toward the extreme, cold ice bamboo on the opposite side. As long as he killed Qin Hao, obtained the ice bamboo, and consumed the 100 dew fruit, natural cold cultivation would be raised to a very terrifying level. At this level, killing Tian Boguang and Yi Shuifeng would be a piece of cake. This was his intuition, and at this moment, Natural Cold's confidence also swelled to the extreme. He felt that he was already invincible. The Medicine Valley was really a place. Sure enough, when Brother Liang gets serious, there is no unbreakable formation or unkillable enemy. Brother Liang is too awesome when he gets serious. He exudes endless charm from head to toe. He is a real man. It's a pity that the little junior sisters of the Academy are not here. Otherwise, there will be a group of brainless, infatuated fans who will faint. Qin Hao has lost the formation this time and has taken the initiative to walk out with an attitude of death. Qin Hao died. In an instant, the disciples of the Shifeng Academy clamored like a swarm of flies. Everyone's expression was as if they hated Qin Hao to the bone and saw him as the enemy who killed their father. The people who hated him the most were Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yanniai, because their sacred weapons were all destroyed by Qin Hao's formation. If Natural Cold did not want to personally execute Qin Hao, they would have rushed up at this moment. Are you happy that the formation is broken? Haha, I'm sorry. In fact, the formation just now was just a small one that I casually set up. If you haven't had enough fun, I can set up 2 more. But now I've had enough. So, the next people to die will be you brainless idiots. Qin Hao's eyes were cold as he pointed at everyone behind Natural Cold. Suddenly, everyone's faces were stunned. What did Qin Hao say? He wanted to kill all of them? In front of eldest senior brother Natural Cold. He was so shamelessly arrogant. Haha, this is the funniest joke I've ever heard. Do you think our eldest senior brother is not here? And even if our eldest senior brother is not here, there are still our senior brother Zhao and senior brother Gao. Any one of them can torture you 1,000 times. That's right, that's right. In fact, killing Qin Hao does not require our eldest senior brother's hand. Watch me, Zhao Shanhe, take his dog life. Zhao Shanhe could not stand Qin Hao's arrogance. Without waiting for Natural Cold's reply, he chose to take the initiative to attack. Interesting. In that case, let me see how you're going to kill all the junior brothers behind me before my very eyes. As Zhao Shanhe attacked, Natural Cold stopped in his tracks and laughed with his arms crossed. He admitted that Qin Hao had some skills, but he was too arrogant. Not to mention Qin Hao, even if Tian Boguang was standing there, he would not look down on Natural Cold. Is that so? Then open your eyes wide and see clearly. Jian Baihong. Qin Hao stretched out his hand in the void. Suddenly, a 3-foot-long sword appeared in his palm. The sword was as green as jade, and its outer flame was burning with a circle of dark red fire. At this moment, a fanatical flame like a volcanic eruption rose from Qin Hao's body. The temperature of the space instantly rose back up. Chapter 707. As an Essence Soul Realm Genius. How could he not see that Qin Hao's flames were not ordinary flames, but his natal soul fire? Qin Hao is also an Essence Soul Realm Genius. Surrounded by the flames, Qin Hao's cultivation level rose steadily. 8th level Heavenly Sage. 9th level. He had broken through to the Yuan Monarch realm. The color of the flames became brighter and revealed an invisible tyrannical aura. 1st level Yuan Monarch. 2nd level Yuan Monarch. 3rd level Yuan Monarch. Ding after a soft ring. Qin Hao's cultivation level was fixed at the 4th level Yuan Monarch realm. Instantly, a raging wave of fire swept out from his feet and along the ground. Everywhere it passed, not a single blade of grass was left. The ground was scorched into charred earth with cracks and smoke rising from it. Huge cracks opened involuntarily. Although Qin Hao's cultivation level was not as strong as Natural Yang's, he was at Zhao Shanhe's level. Moreover, Natural Yang could tell that his natal soul fire was extraordinary and that his essence soul was of a higher grade than Zhao Shanhe's. Without a doubt, Qin Hao had the ability to kill everyone else if he did not stop him. Stop right there. With a loud roar, Natural Yang pushed his palms in front of his chest. Crash! A huge pile of black ice shards shot out from his palms. There were many of them, and they were very dense as they tried to block Qin Hao's sword move. However, how could the red lotus sword flame be blocked by black ice? The two of them were not of the same grade at all. Qin Hao's red lotus fire was ranked 3rd on the exceptional flame list, while Natural Liang's black ice was ranked outside of the top 10 on the ice soul list. With one strike, Qin Hao swept out countless blazing lines of fire. These lines of fire seemed to have grown eyes as they transformed into streaks of swimming dragon sword chi and pierced towards the disciples behind Natural Yang. After colliding with the black ice midway, the swimming dragon sword chi let out a shocking dragon roar and destroyed everything in its path. The black ice that Natural Yang was so proud of was useless in front of Qin Hao's sword flame. Not only was it useless, but it seemed to be completely suppressed. How is this possible? Naturally, Liang's face was filled with astonishment. He fell into a state of absent-mindedness. He was in complete disbelief. This was the first time he had seen a flame that could destroy his black ice. While he was in a daze, Qin Hao's sword flame mercilessly broke through He Bing's line of defense and blasted into the crowd of disciples. Not only did these sword flames carry the red lotus fire chi, but they were also the upgraded sword moves of Graceful Sword. Qin Hao had spent more than 2 months in the Imperial Mausoleum's catacombs. He had figured out a new powerful sword style. It was called the Great Sword of 100 Blossoms. As the name suggested, a single sword strike could unleash over 100 unique skills that were comparable to the fleeting sword chi. Of course, with Qin Hao's current ability, he still couldn't perfectly execute it. At most, he could unleash 20 or so attacks. However, it was more than enough to deal with 7 or 8 trash disciples. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Amidst the sound of the sword chi piercing through human bodies, those disciples who were rejoicing in the misfortune of others who were hiding behind Tianliang fell down like straws. Some of their bodies were even sent flying more than 10 meters away by the sword chi. Even in death, they couldn't believe that Qin Hao had really killed them all in front of their senior brother. At this moment, they suddenly realized that Tianliang wasn't an invincible existence. Qin Hao had unknowingly risen. The person who died the most cowardly death was Song Majiang. For Song Majiang, who was full of dissatisfaction and full of pretentiousness, Qin Hao took special care of him. At least 4 sword chi hit Song Majiang at the same time, blowing him into pieces on the spot. When Song Majiang died, he deeply realized how stupid he was, how unbearable and laughable. Because he was just an ant under Qin Hao's sword. Puff, puff. 2 sounds of blood spurting out rang out. Zhao Shanhe, who was in the front, and Gao Yan, who was behind, were both sent flying at the same time. They were also hit by Qin Hao's sword chi, but they didn't die. In this crisis, the 2 of them risked their lives to activate their source spirits. Zhao Shanhe's source spirit was a large chrysanthemum, and Gao Yan's source spirit was a large sickle. They put their source spirits in front of them to protect themselves and took Qin Hao's sword chi head on. Although they didn't die, they felt like they had been hit by a wild bull. Their chi and blood were boiling, and their organs were about to spit out. Their source spirits were shattered by the sword chi. In a short time, the 2 of them couldn't condense their source spirits anymore. Putong, putong. The sound of them falling to the ground also indicated that the power of Qin Hao's sword had disappeared. However, other than nature cool, no one else was able to stand. Did they want to turn into corpses? Did they want to be seriously injured like Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan? Did they want to be like Song Majiang, dying without a corpse left? It could be said that the ground was covered in broken limbs and blood. It was a tragic sight. The only person who was intact was Tianliang's commander. Pa! At this time, there was the sound of glass breaking. A thumb-sized ice crystal fell from the front of Natural Cold's armor. Then with a kacha sound, the smooth black armor on his chest was covered in a layer of spiderweb. It was dangerous to the point of collapse. It turned out that Tianliang was not unharmed. He was also hit by the sword chi. But because of his high cultivation, his body was not injured. However, the armor condensed by the black ice source spirit suffered unprecedented damage. Qin Hao! Tianliang clenched his teeth. The masseter muscles on his face trembled crazily, and blood oozed out his eyes. Below his feet were the broken limbs of his junior brothers. Only Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan were still alive. However, the 2 Shifeng cabinet disciples were no different from cripples. This was the result of Qin Hao's sword. This was Qin Hao's answer to Tianliang. This was the lesson that Tian Boiwang could not forget. Unfortunately, Nature Liang had never looked at Qin Hao in the eye. So today, he also learned the lesson of Qin Hao. In addition to not being able to protect his junior brothers, even his own source spirit was destroyed. Eldest senior brother, save me, save me. Kill Qin Hao, quickly kill him. Otherwise, where will our Shifeng Academy put its face? On the ground, Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan let out a blood-sobbing roar. Qin Hao destroying their team with a single sword was the biggest shame in the history of the Academy. At the same time, there was an uncontrollable fear in their voices. It was impossible to imagine that Qin Hao was in the same realm as them, but he was so ridiculously strong. He was an existence that completely crushed them. In fact, at this moment, Qin Hao's strength was enough to match Tianliang's. "How is it? Are you satisfied with my sword?" Qin Hao turned a deaf ear to the two's roars of hatred. He only smiled at Tianyang. Their strength was comparable? "Sorry, I'll take Tianliang's life." Although it would take some effort to kill him, Qin Hao was confident that he could kill him within a quarter of an hour. "Qin Hao, today, I, Liang, am absolutely irreconcilable with you. I swear to avenge my junior brothers. If I can't, then I will be your grandson." Black Ice Heaven's swallowing explosion. Tianliang's eyes were completely covered in blood. He pushed the thoughtless divine art to the limit, reaching a cold-blooded realm where he completely forgot himself, forgot his parents, killed Buddha, and killed God. At this moment, he also used his strongest source spirit's ultimate move. Chapter 708. This scene happened too suddenly. The unexpected appearance of the leopard pack broke the battle situation between Qin Hao and Natural Cold. Even Qin Hao was stunned. In just a few seconds, the pack of ice leopards spread like a flood. The ice bomb that the Leopard King spat out from its mouth was already close at hand, smashing toward Natural Cold's face. When it was shot out, the ice bomb was only the size of a fist, but after flying halfway, it expanded into a huge ice ball with a diameter of 10 meters. This ice ball carried a bright beam of light as it spun and flew horizontally. Along the way, all the plants were covered in frost. It was obvious that its power was not to be underestimated. F***CK. Natural Cold clenched his teeth. He had just used up his old strength and had not finished accumulating his new strength. He had just finished a few moves with Qin Hao when he was unexpectedly attacked by the Leopard King. He did not understand why his luck was so bad. Why was the attacker not Qin Hao? Why was it him? There was no time to think. Natural Cold dispersed the big move that he did not have time to condense and could only be forced to defend. He pushed his palms forward, and a black light surged under his palms, forming a black light screen. A large amount of black ice condensed on the light screen, and the light screen expanded rapidly, finally reaching a diameter of about 10 meters. He could only grit his teeth and face it head-on. Boom! In the deafening sound of a loud explosion. The bright ice bomb exploded on the pitch-black ice screen. Black and white intertwined, and both shattered at the same time. The sky was filled with scattered ice shards. Natural Cold was indeed the chief disciple. He received the attack hastily and actually withstood it. But even though he blocked the attack, he was still shaken by the residual force of the ice bomb. The brute force of a magical beast had always been stronger than that of a human. At this moment, Natural Cold was involuntarily sent flying. His distorted facial features showed that his hand was in great pain from the explosion. However, the Leopard King did not give him a chance to breathe. It was like an elder who had gone crazy after the death of his son. After rushing over, it did not give up and bit Natural Cold. Streaks of sharp claws flashed in the air, forcing Natural Cold to the extreme. At the same time, Qin Hao was also surrounded by a large number of leopards. Although the leopards did not attack Qin Hao, their backs were arched, their hair stood on end, and their teeth bared. They told Qin Hao not to act rashly. Naturally, Liang didn't receive the same treatment as Qin Hao. He was basically dealing with the Panther King's all-out attacks. This Panther King was at the peak of the 9th rank, only one step away from becoming a venerable beast. It could be said to be extremely powerful, far more ferocious than the 8th rank Beast King that Natural Liang had killed when he snatched the White Dew Seal. Normally, he was already extremely difficult to deal with. Now, he was caught off guard and didn't have the slightest chance to catch his breath from the beginning until the end. Gradually, Natural Cold became more and more miserable. The ink-colored ice armor on his body was full of holes from the opponent's claws. His face was also hit by the Panther King's claws, leaving 3 bloody scars. The wound was so deep that it almost peeled off the skin on Nature Cold's face. "Qin Hao, just you wait. I'm not done with you." After letting out a long howl, Natural Cold unfolded a pair of wide black primary wings and flew away while sobbing. As he flew, countless pitch-black ice shards mixed with streams of blood fell from the sky. He deeply understood that he was powerless to kill the Ice Panther King in front of him. Moreover, Qin was still glaring at him from afar. If he continued fighting, the one who would die would very likely be him. He had no other choice but to run, even if he had to abandon Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan on the ground. Eldest senior brother, take us with you. I beg you, don't leave us behind. We don't want to die. Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan lay on the ground and cried out mournfully as they watched Natural Cold fly away. Their hearts felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless hell. They had never imagined that they would end up like this. Even more so, they had never thought that their almighty and omnipotent eldest senior brother would cold-bloodedly abandon them. At this moment, they finally understood how petty and insignificant the so-called friendship between friends and schoolmates was in the face of life and death. You want to escape? Leave the 100-dew fruit behind. Qin roared. How could he let Natural Cold escape so easily? The art of endless samsara circulated in his body. Waves of inner strength carried the surging yuan qi in his 8 extraordinary meridians and gathered in his right palm. Immediately after, he struck out with his palm and shook the sword hilt. 100 steps, flying sword. Whoosh! The great void divine stab pierced through the air, stirring up a gust of flames. The sword was wrapped in a layer of lightning as it whistled through the air and chased after Natural Cold. Natural Cold's speed was fast, so fast that the rank 9 Ice Panther King could not catch up. It could only roar unwillingly. However, it was not as fast as Qin Hao's 100 steps flying sword. Puchi! The sword brushed past Natural Cold's right shoulder and accurately cut off his arm. Natural Cold wore the interspatial ring on his right hand. Qin Hao also knew that it was impossible to kill Natural Cold from such a distance. However, he could still cut off his arm while he was panicking. This was something that he could do. Chapter 709. Roar. The Panther King let out a low roar to calm the Panther Pack. Then, it lowered its head and spoke to Qin Hao in a deep voice, human. This voice was the common language of the continent. Even though the Panther King's voice was very rough and its tongue was not very flexible, it was still able to speak the human language. Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan, who were lying on the ground in the distance, were so frightened that their faces contorted and their hearts trembled. You can actually speak? Qin Hao was surprised and slightly stunned. Human, the Panther King repeated, its voice still as deep as ever. It is not difficult to speak the human language. After all, I am half a step into the realm of venerable beast and will soon transform into a human. Boom! In the distance, Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan were terrified. No wonder the invincible Natural Liang wanted to escape. The Panther King in front of them was actually half a venerable beast. The two of them simply buried their faces in the ground and pretended to be dead. In their hearts, they no longer hoped to live. They only hoped to leave a complete corpse. Even if there were only a few bits left, it would be enough to prove that they had lived once in this world. Those two idiots on the ground are pretending to be dead. Are they your subordinates? In response, the Panther King gave Zhao Shanhe a sidelong glance. No. They're my enemies. Speaking of which, Your Excellency, what do you mean by this? I will never hand over this ice bamboo shoot. Qin Hao protected the ice bamboo shoot and got into a battle stance. Ridiculous. Although your strength is not bad and you seem to have a special ability, you are still a mere 4th level king. How can you fight against a venerable like me? The Panther King said majestically. Then, it continued. The Beast Emperor has ordered that if the last batch of humans to enter the valley do not attack us, we cannot kill you wantonly. This is the sacred agreement between the old Beast Emperor and King Luo Shui. Moreover, you do not have the blood of my Ice Leopard clan's descendants, so I will not attack you. Attack. In short, leave the ice bamboo shoot and I will let you go. Otherwise, only death awaits. As it spoke, the Panther King released its aura again. Accompanied by a majestic roar, a gust of wind came out of its mouth, blowing sand and stones into the air. The trunks of the surrounding waist-thick trees were almost bent to the ground. This time, Qin Hao completely understood. No wonder Natural Liang was suddenly attacked by the Panther King. It was because Natural Liang's body was stained with the blood of the Ice Panther's descendants. But how did the smell of blood get to Natural Cool? Qin Hao admitted that he had killed the grandson of the ice leopard in order to get the ice bamboo shoots. Fortunately, he had a good habit of being clean and had gotten rid of the bloody smell in advance. But naturally, it was cold. Shaking his head, Qin Hao stopped thinking about these useless things. Judging from the current situation, this ice bamboo shoot was probably given to the Leopard King by the 7 ice leopards. The 7 ice leopards were a branch of the Leopard King, which was equivalent to a distant branch of the human race. As long as the Panther King consumed the ice bamboo shoots, there was a 100% chance that it would break through to the level of a venerable beast and be reborn as a human. From this, it could be seen that the ice bamboo shoots were of great use and value to it. Unfortunately, the ice shoots were now Qin Hao's surname. They were a gift from Qin Hao to the girl. Moreover, he would never admit that he had killed the Panther King's descendant. "What if I say no?" Qin Hao said resolutely, flames rising from his body. He knew that a battle with the Panther King was unavoidable. But Qin Hao was not afraid of the other party, even if the other party had the strength of a pseudo-venerable. Even if he could not win, escaping with the ice bamboo shoots was still a piece of cake. This could be deduced from Natural Cool's escape. The Panther King was currently incomplete, so some of its abilities were restricted. Roar! The leopards became restless again, continuously letting out angry roars. In their opinion, the Panther King letting Qin Hao leave was already a great favor. But the little human in front of them was not only not grateful, he was actually challenging their king. He was simply asking for a yard after getting an inch, not taking the face that was given. Do you really not cherish your life? The Panther King's tone plummeted. As a king, it had already been generous enough to Qin Hao. It's impossible for me to hand over the ice bamboo shoots. Enough nonsense. Let's see who's the real deal. Come on, let's fight. Qin Hao did not say anything else. He held his sword in front of him, flames surging around his body, and, at the same time, he released the dragon soul in his body. The appearance of the giant dragon changed the color of the world. With a domineering dragon roar, the phantom of a giant dragon rose behind Qin Hao. Its feet stepped on the clouds, and the dragon head looked down, roaring at the Panther King. His roar shook the surroundings and destroyed mountains. It carried the might of a heavenly saint that could crush all things, and it immediately caused the leopard pack to feel heavy pressure. It was also when the dragon soul appeared that the Panther King revealed a look of fear. Those with weaker strength were almost paralyzed on the ground. F***CK. This brat Qin Hao actually has twin soul sources, and each of them is the most powerful. No wonder he's so strong. Even if he's also a 4th level king, he can kill the 2 of us like ants. He can even fight Brother Liang head-on. Brother Liang, my ass. Natural Cool is a grandson, a lowly grandson who abandoned us. Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yanniai whispered each other. Both of them were shocked by the trump card Qin Hao had revealed. Based on Qin Hao's current strength, he had enough capital to fight a 9th level Yuan Monarch after activating the power of 2 essence spirits. This was really terrifying. It was simply unheard of to be able to fight a 9th level Yuan Monarch. Unfortunately, Qin Hao's opponent was not a 9th level Yuan Monarch, but a quasi-venerable beast that was half a step away from becoming a venerate. Therefore, no matter how hard they tried, Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yanniai were not optimistic about Qin Hao. He was doomed this time. How dare you? Seeing Qin Hao activate 2 essence spirits at the same time and release the absolute king of beast essence spirits, the dragon soul, the Panther King was enraged. Qin Hao had scared his descendant to the point of incontinence and paralysis. This was undoubtedly a slap to the Panther King's face. At the same time, The Panther King faced the dragon soul in the sky and let out the most ferocious roar in his life. The roar was so intense that it forcefully dispersed the clouds in the sky. The dragon soul was so strong that it seemed like it was going to be torn apart. In an instant, the leopard pack regained their confidence and felt that their king was awesome. Roar! Suddenly, as the dragon soul and the Panther King let out sacred roars at the same time and fought each other, a very indecent barking sound was heard. The sound of a dog spirit was very unpleasant to the ears. Perhaps it was provoked by something, but the dog spirit that had been recuperating in the space ring suddenly jumped out. It turned into a blur as it barked and jumped on the Panther King's head, then bit down on the Panther King's nose. Roar! This was the Panther King's cry. It was a very mournful cry. His ancestor was so unexpected that the king of a generation could not react in time. In the rules of a king, or even a high-ranking demonic beast, no one was allowed to interfere. When two powerhouses confronted each other, no outsider was allowed to interfere. In other words, the competition between the Panther King and the Dragon Soul was fair. All the magical beasts in the Medicine Valley understood this principle, and all the magical beasts respected it very much. They respected it because this was the only way to determine who was stronger and more suitable to lead the other demonic beasts in the Medicine Valley. But what happened? Ugh! Chin Hao first looked in the direction where the leopards had disappeared, then looked at Brother Dog beside him. He was very puzzled. It was unimaginable that the Panther King was actually able to restrain its desire to step into the venerable realm and take human form. Instead, it abandoned the ice bamboo shoots and left in a carefree manner. Not to mention a magical beast, if it was a human, very few would be able to do so. Just how much self-control did it require? Chin Hao guessed that the Panther King's sudden departure was definitely related to the appearance of the dog spirit. Of course, it wasn't because it was afraid of Brother Dog. From the Panther King's strange behavior just now, it seemed that it had a kind of reverence for Brother Dog. This kind of reverence was practically imprinted in its bones. Could it be? There was a distant relative of Brother Dog in the primitive forest of the Medicine Valley, and this relative was so powerful that even a secondary venerable was extremely afraid of him. Roar! Woof! The dog spirit let out two low barks, as if it had seen through Chin Hao's thoughts. It rolled its eyes and transmitted its answer, as if saying, "Don't guess blindly. I am a mutt from Akita town. At that time, I had a litter of 5 brothers. All of them were handsome and confident with shiny fur. Unfortunately, in the end, I was the only one who grew up. You humans were slaughtered and cooked." After saying that, the dog spirit turned into a beam of light and returned to Chin Hao's space ring. Its injuries hadn't healed yet. All right. Chin Hao shook his head and smiled bitterly. He didn't continue guessing. Keeping the ice shoot was his top priority. The fruit of the ice shoot was about to ripen. However, there were still 2 people left to deal with. At this moment, Chin Hao's cold gaze turned towards Zhao Shanhe and Gao Yan. The heavens could be witnesses. When Chin Hao's gaze turned towards them, the 2 were so scared that they almost peed in their pants. They originally thought that Chin Hao was dead for sure. Although they wouldn't be able to survive, at least they had dragged Chin Hao down with them. Speaking of which, they were quite proud. But who knew that the Panther King that was about to step into the venerable level was scared away by a mutt released by Chin Hao? It didn't even fight for the ice shoot. It was simply a miracle. Their wish to drag Chin Hao down with them was also ruined. In fact, there was no need for Chin Hao to say anything. The 2 had already rolled and crawled towards Chin Hao's feet. Moreover, their faces were full of brilliant smiles. "Brother Hao, from today onwards, you are my boss. To be honest, I have admired you for a long time. In fact, I am a spy who hibernated beside Natural Yang. I endured the humiliation just to witness the moment of his defeat. A villain like Natural Yang will be taken away by the heavens sooner or later. You are Xu Liang, the real son of destiny." At this time, a strong spiritual fluctuation suddenly appeared in his mind, and a large group of different auras intertwined in the distance. These auras were not the auras of magical beasts, but of humans. To be more precise, they should be the members of the battle teams of the 4 great academies. Qin Hao was very familiar with 2 of them. It's Xiao Li and her sister. Not good. A long rainbow pierced through the sky. Qin Hao flew up into the sky without saying anything. His speed was so fast that it brought with it a sharp sound of breaking the air. Xinyuan Wuhuang, who was on the shore, could not react in time. What amazing speed! A trace of horror flashed across Xinyuan Wuhuang's face. Soon after, his eyes turned cold. He looked in the direction Qin Hao flew and muttered. What did he find? He acted so hurriedly. The speed and power that burst out just now made me faintly feel a sense of danger. Qin Hao's cultivation might be higher than I thought. The elephant is stronger. Let's follow him and see. Nodding, Xinyuan Wuhuang spread his primary wings and chased after him. He did not know what made Qin Hao so nervous, but thinking about it, it should be very interesting. Han Man, get out of my way. Considering that you are Qi Yang's disciple and trash, I don't want to kill you, because you don't have the slightest qualification to die in the hands of Duanhua. However, you don't know what's good for you, and stop me from ravaging these 2 girls. You must be tired of living. Last chance, get out of my way and disappear immediately, because when I do that kind of thing, I don't like to be watched. Somewhere in the Medicine Valley, Duanhua, who was dressed in red, stood proudly. There were 3 people in front of him. They were Naransu, Nalan Li, and Hanman. Naransu's eyes were full of panic. As the elder sister, Nalan Li was slightly better than the younger sister, but she was also very nervous. However, there was blood at the corner of Hanman's mouth. Obviously, he had suffered a serious injury and was holding his chest in pain. After Duanhua entered the Medicine Valley, he was thrown by the strange force and could not get up for a long time. When he regained his mobility, he looked everywhere for Qin Hao's whereabouts. It was as if he had gone crazy. He killed everything he saw and did not even look for the herbs. He just wanted to kill Qin Hao and avenge his brother. However, the Medicine Valley was too big. He did not even see a shadow for a few days. But today he was very lucky. He met 2 female members of Qin Hao's Haoqi alliance. Originally, Duanhua wanted to kill Naransu and Nalan Li directly. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was too easy. After being trapped in the Medicine Valley for many days, he could not find any trace of Qin Hao. He was very irritated and needed to vent his anger. Chapter 713. As his Yuan Qi surged, Hanman's cultivation rose to the 3rd level of the Heavenly Saint realm. This was several times stronger than before. During the Heavenless competition, Hanman was only a 5th level Profound Saint. Since he was selected to join the Red Sun battle team to represent the Academy, he was fortunate enough to be approved by the 10 Inner Pavilion Elders to enter the blood pool with Sayogwa and the others to temper their bodies. It was extremely difficult for him to reach his current level. At that time, this achievement had made Hanman extremely excited. However, compared to Duanhua Lu, who was a King Realm expert, he was too weak. Good. You're a fool who refuses a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. A mere 3rd order Heavenly Saint realm trash dares to make an enemy out of me? Duanhua couldn't help but gnash his teeth. He was so angry that he mocked the other party. In his eyes, Hanman was as weak as an ant. I'm going to kill you. Hanman roared and waved his fists, creating a gust of orange wind as he pushed his strength and speed to the extreme. He moved faster and faster until his movements were airtight. A large number of fish shadows were like thousands of arms waving, smashing towards Duanhua's face. This was Hanman's signature move, the 1,000 Hands Phantom Divine Fist. Normally, this was his trump card to save his life. Once he used the 1,000 Hands Phantom God Fist, it would drain all of his Yuan Qi. At that time, if he was unable to defeat the enemy, he would be like a weak chicken or duck, waiting to be slaughtered. In order to fight against Duanhua Lu, he had no choice but to use it. Moreover, the speed of his fists was more violent than ever. Spit! What a piece of trash! Duan Hualu spat, and his eyes were filled with disdain. As he said, fighting with Han Man was a disgrace to his status. But at this moment, he also casually made a move. He stomped his foot on the ground, and with a bang, an incomparably vigorous power flowed from his foot to his entire body. Intense flames flickered, and with a light lift of his palm, a powerful tongue of fire swept towards Han Man. Han Man knew that his opponent was a genius with an essence soul. He immediately used the Thousand Hands Phantom Divine Fist to fight against the tongue of fire. However, his fist was defeated in an instant. Then, with a heavy bang, he was hit in the chest by the tongue of fire. His body was involuntarily sent flying. The clothes on his chest were burned, and his skin was scorched. A strong smell of barbecued meat filled the air. Han Man screamed and fell to the ground. His face was filled with helplessness. His proudest move was so weak in front of the inner pavilion disciple. "We'll help you," Naransu and Duan Hualu said. Duan Hualu knew that they could not escape. Naelinli waved her small hand, and her slender, jade-like fingers moved the yuan qi in her body.